1 minute away from seeing that checkered flag fall. Now right into the business end of this session, 101.7, the time to beat. Josh Birkin, still the rider out front at the moment from Bernie Hook and Simon Huntingford. That is still how things lie at the moment.
Yes, we've only got 6 riders out there on circuit, but we've got a lot more in the championship. Matt Birkin, who's second in the championship, has not made it out onto track yet. I don't know if he's just not feeling the wet conditions, which is a bit strange if you're not making it onto track, because you would really like to get a feeling for where the puddles are, where the grip is, because when it comes to the race a little bit later on, you won't know where it is, because I'm pretty sure the weather forecast, the way it is, it will still be wet. So you need to get the sort of practice in to find out where the grip is, to find out where you can go fast, because if you just go straight into the racing without it, then you won't know. You'll take a few laps to bed yourself in, but then again, he could just have a big problem, so we don't know if he's going to make it onto track just before the end of the session.
And that looks like Aston Dean we're picking up there in the white leathers. So to give you an idea of how much track time the riders have had in these conditions so far, a practice session and then qualifying 1. That was it. This is qualifying 2, which will set the grid for race number 1 later on. But they need to make it a good one, and Birkin certainly doing that at the moment. Josh Birkin, who's down in 7th in the championship, having stood on the podium once so far this season, so this would be a brilliant result. Yellow flags are waving, and that's because the checkered flag is out. So there you can see the checkered flag. Simon Huntingford is third, has taken it. Best time of a 103.5. Birkin comes across the line and improves. So Josh Birkin, a new fastest lap out front, 101.2, extends his gap over the rest of the field to 1.4 a second. Across the line, this is Craig Ashall that comes across the line. 3.9 seconds back, will be in 4th place.
Thumbs up to the camera there. Yeah, we can see you.
Josh Birkin very, very happy there in the yellow crash helmet. We're still waiting for Bernie Hook. That is the only rider yet to cross the line, so hopefully we can grab a view of Bernie Hook there. At the moment, this is Josh Birkin just showing off a little bit.
Yeah, he's just having a bit of fun out there before the races later on, so he knows he's got a lot of pace in hand and got a big gap over the rest of the field, so we could see him providing a race win for the first time this year. Just hopefully when he gives a bit of a celebration, he doesn't overdo it and end up coming off the bike, because there's a lot of puddles out there, a lot of chances to come off, which is not too great if that were to happen to you. So that is the end of the senior mini motos qualifying 2. Next up, we're going to be having the mini GP50s qualifying 2, where there's a lot of scope for some great results, especially in the qualifying session ahead of race 1 today. Now, we're joined in the commentary box by, well, one of our riders. Could you just let us know who you are and what you race in?
I'm Minnie Rossi, and I race in the Mini Moto Rookies.
The Mini Moto Rookies. So, right, you said you're Minnie Rossi. Can you let us know why you're called Minnie Rossi?
Well, I was watching Rossi for a few years, and then that day we went somewhere, and I saw a motorbike, and I asked Dad if I could have it, and he said yeah. So
basically giving you what you want. Now, you're very distinguishable out there on the circuit because you've got the pink leathers on. Is pink your favourite colour?
Yeah.
Yeah, why is it your favourite colour?
I think it's very vibrant, and I just like the colour.
A bit like Valentino Rossi with all his Dayglow yellow. Yeah, very vibrant. Now, you've got a lot of potential this weekend. How are you feeling out there in the wet conditions?
Well, I like the rain, like the wet. Yeah, I like the conditions.
Do you prefer them over the dry conditions?
Yeah.
Yeah, you feeling very confident coming into this weekend?
Yeah.
Yeah. Where do you think you can? Where do you think you possibly finish?
Maybe 16th.
16th. Not a bit higher than that. Top 10. It's got to be a top 10, isn't it? Maybe a top 5. Yeah, go for that. Valentino Rossi will be watching you and going, absolutely, she is the mini Valentino Rossi right there. So what are your hopes for the end of the season? Do you feel like you've got a lot of potential to keep improving? Are you feeling like possibly a couple of podiums?
Yeah, hopefully.
Hopefully, yes. So what do you feel like you're going to go do next year? Are you going to stay with the rookies, or are you going to move up to the pros, or go off and do something else?
I would hopefully go up to the pros.
Yeah, the pros. Feeling confident about that?
Yeah.
Yeah, so, well, thank you very much for coming in, and we'll just give a wee wave to the camera, say hello to the people at home, and who's at home supporting you this weekend? Who do I say a big hello to?
My dad, mum and sister, and my nanny and granddad.
Hello, mum, dad, nanny and sister. Hopefully you're enjoying it back home. Do I give them another big wave to the camera? So, any sponsors you want to say a big hello to as well?
The Sign Box, Muck Off, and Mass.
Brilliant. Thank you very much for coming in, and we'll be keeping a close eye on you on the rookies this weekend. So fingers crossed you can get that top 10 that we're waiting for. Yeah, sounds very good. So thanks very much for coming in, and well, we'll be handing back over to the track now because we've got some more racing action, the Mini GP 50s, and on track right now we've got Ryan Hitchcock leading the way on bike number 43 ahead of Sylvan Moundy on bike 144. Kyle Payne, bike number 25. Harrison Crosby on bike number 69 in fourth place, ahead of Josh Bannister in second spot. So Josh Bannister picking up a triple win. We've got a crasher, it looks like, at the exit of the penultimate corner, trying to get up. Ryder looks okay picking the bike up, so just trying to get it from out of the barrier. Not sure how that is at the moment, but we'll keep an eye on that. But try to get the bike back to the pit. So it looks like there could be a little bit of damage to the bike. Fingers crossed it's not too much before the race is a little bit later on today. That's unfortunately Carter Brown. Carter Brown is the person that's gone down, but thankfully he's back up. He's back into the session, and that's such a shame for Carter Brown because Carter's been showing a lot of pace this weekend and giving us a lot to look forward to ahead of the races, finishing second a little bit earlier on. So Carter Brown, who's had a bit of a tough season so far in the championship, is looking to get back on it. So we've got his fading hand down just ever so slightly, but it doesn't seem to be phasing him at the moment as the riders go through the track, splashing through the puddles. We've still got Hitchcock 1.1 seconds ahead of Sullivan Moundy and Kyle Payne on bike number 25. So we've got another guest in the studio, and we spoke to you yesterday ever so slightly. If you don't know who it is, I'm just going to get you to say your name.
Owen Miller.
Owen Miller. So we spoke to you yesterday, Owen, because you're racing against your brother Dylan, aren't you? So it's a bit of a fun wee rivalry going on between you two, isn't there? Just out there on track.
Yeah. It's been hard today because of obviously the conditions, but I'm hoping to improve in the next session. Well, it's a race, so hopefully I'll become higher than I qualified.
So you qualified, and was it 9th position you qualified in today ahead of the race?
Qualified 14th because my clutch was slipping and I couldn't get the drive on the straights. So
do you believe you'll have that fixed for race 1 later on today?
Yeah, hopefully.
So you've been showing a lot of promise in the last couple of rounds back at Tattershall. You were mixing it with the people at the front. Do you feel like that's just boosted your confidence even more, looking for a strong end to the season?
Yeah, it's been fun, like battling with the front, because it's something new for us, and yeah, it's just been fun.
It's been a lot of fun. It's been a lot of fun watching you guys out there as well. Now, you feel like you've got the clutch sorted for race 1 today. It's going to be wet today. Are you hoping it might dry up for tomorrow, or do you prefer to be wet?
Yeah, because in the dry I was the 6th fastest, so hopefully it's dry tomorrow so I can get back up there.
So you're starting from 14th later on today. Where do you feel like you could potentially come?
Maybe in top 10.
In the top 10? Maybe a classic right from the back of the field to the front. Maybe feeling that?
Yeah.
Maybe when you get that sorted as well. So, Owen, anyone you want to say a big hello to out there? Sponsors, family?
Yeah.
Give them a wave in the camera.
I'd say hello to like everyone that's listening, like my grandma, my granddad, and like all my family. And my sponsors like 151 and Wiz Racing.
Owen Miller, thank you very much for coming in today, and of course be safe out there on the circuit, and hopefully you can get a strong result in and the bike can be fixed. So that's Owen Miller, and of course his brother Dylan is racing against him in the mini GPs this later on today, so fingers crossed they can keep that going and we can get some great racing action. The mini GP 50s are out on track at the moment, so we've got Owen and Dylan out in the mini GP 70s a little bit later on this afternoon. They will be out at supposedly 3:05, but since we're running a little bit late today, a few minutes behind, they might be out a little bit later on, but we will keep you up to date with the timings as and when we've got them coming through. So coming back to the mini GP 50s, we have Harrison Crosby still leading the way, 0.8 of a second ahead of the number 66 of Ronnie Harris. Ryan Hitchcock in third spot on bike number 43. Kyle Payne is next up, ahead of Sylvan Moundsey on bike 144. He's 1.5 seconds off top spot. Saying that, Sylvan Moundsey just made a bit of an improvement, 1.3 seconds off top spot. He's moved into fourth. Carter Brown is next up, ahead of Josh Bannister, who's struggling a little bit so far in the wet conditions, so he missed out on the LC40 Elite. Only got one lap in there in qualifying, but Chris, it looks like he's not taking to the wet conditions as well as he might have hoped.
Yeah, well, we've about to have the checkered flag go out. I think anyone we're following now coming out these, we're following Harrison Crosby there in the black crash helmet, comes across the line now, just about nicking another lap in. So checkered flag is now waving. There is Crosby in the middle of our picture, who is leading the way at the moment on the number 69. Just ahead of him on the white bike there, the number 66. That is Ronnie Harris, who is in second there, 0.8 apart at the moment. They are the two riders we need to be focusing on. Harrison Crosby in the perfect place at the moment. You can just keep an eye on what Ronnie Harris is doing as Sullivan Moundsey jumps up to third place on his final lap. Josh Bannister has gone to 6th. Lucas Brown up to 8th place at the moment. Harrison McKay has gone to 10th, but this is Harrison Crosby leading the way at the moment. Ahead of him on track, Ronnie Harris, who is behind him in the times, and there goes Harrison Crosby trying to dive down the inside, not going to ruin the lap of Ronnie Harris. So good sportsmanship there as Ronnie Harris now comes across the line. And can he improve? No, but stays in second place. So I'd say job done there for Ronnie Harris. Harrison Crosby quickest in that session, 53.452.
There's a lot of puddles out there in the circuit coming out of the first chicane. We can see him splashing through that. Hopefully we'll get some aquaplaning. The conditions look like they're getting a little bit worse, but you might be able to hear some burbling of bikes underneath us in the microphones as well. That means the Extreme 200s will be going out next. So they'll be out next and showing us the way round. So they were saying that the track conditions were a little bit slippery out there, some dodgy places with puddles in the middle of it, so fingers crossed they can have a nice clean session. And we've got the likes of Jay King, who's leading the pit bike 140s in this category, and of course we've got Brandon Pearl, the yellow Pearl. We spoke to him during the lunch break. He is sitting, well, quite far up in the championship. I say quite far up because he's in third spot on bike 146. Had a little bit of a tough time back at round number 4 at Tattershall. He is 104 points off your championship leader, who is Richard Holmes Williams on bike 126. So Holmes Williams will be looking to extend that championship lead. Taylor Lawrence on bike number 10 is 87 points back. He's had 1 win and 3 podiums this season, so that's 3 wins off and 7 podiums off of what Richard Holmes Williams has managed. Brandon Pearl, even though he's sitting third in the championship, he's only had 1 podium this season, but consistency is the name of the game in the Extreme 200. Will Howarth is next up after missing round number 1 at Clandow. He's had 2 podiums. He's sitting 4th, 106 points off the championship lead. And Jamie King, even though he's leading the pit bike 140s in the Extreme 200 class, he's only managed 1 podium position, and that was back in race number 2 at Red Lodge, round number 2. So he'll be looking to make his way up through the category, through the order, and of course the championship positions. But this is conditions that could help some of the bikes that are a little bit less powered compared to the full-blown Extreme 200s.
Yep, so Extreme 200s now on track at the moment. You've just heard the championship order there from Liam, and now we will see who goes where in the qualifying session and what the grid will be for our first race later. 8 minutes as ever for qualifying. 1 minute of that has already gone, so of course lap times slower in these conditions, so less laps for the riders to go out there and set as quick as time as possible.
Yeah, we're just watching Harvey Cloudge and the lights go through the screen there. Harvey Cloudge, who topped the session for the Pit Bike 140s by 2 seconds. He's already carving his way through the field. So we're talking about bikes that are a little bit underpowered compared to Extreme 200s. Then Harvey Cloudge is one of those riders that might be able to get the most out of these conditions. And he's, of course, already ridden these conditions a few minutes ago. So he's already been out there and knows what it's like. The rest of the riders are just finding their feet and, of course, trying to find out what best bet is to get the grip down, to get the power down, and, of course, hopefully not fall off the bike.
Yeah, well, we won't pay too much attention to the times at the moment, but on that first lap, Josh Watley was the rider who was quickest round.
Yeah, so we're talking about Harvey Clouder, who's been topping the Pit Bike 140s, and he's out there in Extreme 200s, and we caught up with him a little bit earlier on in the weekend. So Harvey Claridge, you are racing in the British Talent Cup this season, and of course here racing in the Pit Bike 140s and Extreme 200s. How does it compare, switching from Moto 3 Honda to the Pit Bike 140 and Extreme 200s here at QFAB?
It's really fun, to be honest, coming on the smaller bikes. It's just great fun to have a mess about with the others here, and it's just really good fun.
Now, you're sort of a graduate of QFAB over the years, but you're just having a bit of fun, as you say. What keeps bringing you back every single time?
It's just a great place, to be honest. It's really fun, and it's just a good environment to be around. Like the racing, it's really good racing, it's well run, so it's just really good to come back.
So you're racing in the British Talent Cup this year, you're right up the front, you're mixing it in the championship. How do you feel like the season has gone as a whole?
The start of the season we've been making good progress, and now at BSB we're making good progress. I got my first race win at Knockhill, and then at BTC we've had a few problems, but we're starting to get back up there now. We're starting to file them out.
So what were the few problems that you were having?
It's just mainly just set up. We couldn't get the bike set up how we wanted it to get set up, but now we've worked on it and it's getting there.
So moving forward ahead of the rest of the season, what are your hopes for the remaining rounds? Because you're going to Brno next week. Have you ever raced there before?
No, I've never raced at Brno. Hopefully I can be in the front group at Brno and then maybe get a podium if I'm lucky.
So who's your biggest challenges for the championship and the race wins you're seeing so far this season?
Well, to get a race win it's going to be quite difficult because I've got to face Scott Ogden and Cameron Horseman and Fenton Seabright. Like, they're really quick at the moment, but hopefully I can mix it with them at the next round.
Now, was one of the rounds that you're still looking forward to coming up to? Brno next weekend, but you've also got Valencia at the end of the season. Do you prefer the British tracks or do you prefer the European ones?
The British tracks, they're good, but the European tracks are just a lot more flowing and they're better environment really. So I'm really looking forward to Brno next weekend.
Could be a step in the right direction for your future. Now, going into 2020, what are you hoping to do for next season?
Next year we'll be doing the British Talent Cup at BSB, and that's pretty much it for the year, just do that.
Is there anything else that you're looking into possibly doing apart from the British Talent Cup in 2020?
Not really. We'll of course come to QFAB to keep riding, keep fit, but that's mainly it.
And one last wee thing about this weekend here at Lydd. What are your hopes? Are you hoping to pick up that first race win that you've been so close to in the Pit Bike 140s?
Yeah, it'd be great to beat J King this weekend, and there's a few new ones coming into it as well, so it'll be good to battle it with them.
Harvey, thanks very much for your time. It's an absolute pleasure. So that was a great wee insight to what Harvey Cloud is doing in 2019 and of course 2020. So continuing on with the British Talent Cup, which he has every chance of progressing further past that as well, because he's been showing some great form this season, and of course 2020, when he's got another year under his belt, it'll push him on to bigger and better things. So the Extreme 200s are still out there on circuit, and it's Elliot Pinson who's leading the way on a 48.4. That's 0.4 of a second ahead of Joshua Watley. Joshua Watley, who's joining us this weekend, the rider you might know him from past QFAB experiences, and he's racing in the European Talent Cup in 2020, so racing over in the likes of Spain and of course, over at Le Mans as well at one point in the season. So Joshua Watley on bike number 70 is showing his prowess in the wet conditions ahead of Harvey Claridge, who we just heard from there a couple of minutes ago on bike number 16 with the orange rims. He's 7/10 off the lead in third spot. Oscar Pinson on bike number 94 is 1.8 seconds further back, and Will Howarth on bike number 96 in fifth position. Jamie King, who's fourth in the championship, is in sixth spot ahead of Brandon Perry, your third position, who's just dropped back as we've got Felix Hearn. So some new names that we've not heard of so far are popping up further up into the top 7. Felix Hearn on bike number 22 on bike 49.8, but once again it's still number 76 of Elliot Pinson leading the way in the Extreme 200 with only a couple of minutes remaining. Joshua Watley and Harvey Claridge will be both chasing him down.
Well, Elliot Pinson then leading the way on the number 76, 47.216 for Elliot Pinson. Fantastic riding so far. Joshua Watley is then in second place on the number 70, 4/10 back at the moment from Pinson. Harvey Claridge is third place and is stopping at the moment. That is the number 16 rider, 7/10 back, having a look down at the bike, and I think that was a problem quickly solved. Is this another separate incident somewhere else around? It is, and
I think that's Joshua Watley, the KRP.
Right, so yes, so we've got is that second and third then stopped out on track. This is all good news for Elliot Pinson, I believe, but from what I believe, it looks like Watley and Claridge have stopped out on circuit, which could open the door for Oscar Pinson with just 20 seconds remaining, who is 1.6 seconds back. Will Howarth is fifth, Jay King sixth, then it's Felix Hearn, Holmes Williams, Brandon Perrell, Taylor Lawrence, Cam Harris rounds out the field. There you can see the number 70. That is Joshua Watley. The number 76 of Pinson is leading the way at the moment with a 47.216, and Harvey Claridge is third on the number 16.
Yeah, so
that is your top three, and we're going to try and pick up our leader now, Elliot Pinson.
But yeah, Harvey Claridge, as we can see, is back up and running. So whatever his issue was, it seems not to be terminal, and he's back into the session with only a minute to go. But we've still got Joshua Watley on the side of the circuit, which is a shame for Joshua Watley. But can Claridge still try and pull out a lap to topple Pinson? But it's the end of the session. Got Pinson over the line. He completes his final lap with a 50.56 laps under there. So checker flag is out. We've got number 10 of Taylor Lawrence second in the championship all the way. We've got crash. Is that Brandon Perrell off the final corner? Brandon Perrell is down. He's up and he's okay. That was lucky that he didn't crash into the barriers too hard there. So that's a shame for Brandon Perrell. He ends the session in 9th spot. Joshua Watley will be in second, as we've got Perrell coming across the line, but he's still cheering. It was a good crash. He enjoyed that one and gave some of the fans something to, well, cheer about as he comes across the start-finish line there. But great to see that he's back up and he's okay. We know Brandon Perrell's a bit of a character, so he will be enjoying that. But there he is. That is our pole man, Elliot Pinson, for the Extreme 200, going back into the pits. So a great lap there of a 47.2, apologies. 4/10 of a second ahead of Joshua Watley. Harvey Claridge in third spot, both having bike troubles, but Claridge managing to resolve his. Oscar Pinson on bike number 94 ends the session in fourth spot ahead of Jamie King in fifth. Will Howarth on bike number 96 in sixth position. Richard Holmes Williams, who won last time out on bike 126 and your championship leader by 87 points, ends the session in seventh, so not getting to grips with the rain as much as he would like. Felix Hearn on bike number 22 in 8th position ahead of Brandon Perrell, who came off at the end but managed to get back up and okay. Taylor Lawrence in 10th on bike number 10 ahead of Cam Harris on bike number 20.
I think Josh Watley got any problems resolved. I saw a rider peel into the pits without crossing the line, and I assume that would have been him having resolved his issues once the checkered flag was already flying. So these are the sidecars now coming out onto the circuit, and well, these are going to be interesting in the rain if they weren't already.
Yeah, we'll get to see them splashing into the puddles and creating all kinds of havoc. So the photographers who are out there today can get some cracking shots of them shooting up some spray, which will be quite good for some action shots of the Lydd circuit.
And so here we go, 4 sidecars, 8-minute session. So I'll have a few laps to try and put in as quickest time as possible. Mick Williams is your championship leader at the moment. 10 wins so far this season, 11 podiums. Jack Walters is in second place, 40 points behind. 2 wins for Jack and 11 podium finishes. So consistency for Jack has kept him within a reasonable reach of the championship lead. Mick Lee is third place, been on the podium 9 times but has not won. I think Mick will be desperate to change that. Mark Parker is fourth, 2 podiums so far this season. Paul Coulters Jr. is fifth place, 3 podiums, and then we have the likes of John Hosker behind that, Simon Ibbotson, Aidan Ems, Greg Pym and Russ Morgan rounding out the field. And we have problems already, unfortunately. That looks like, was that the number 46? I wonder if Simon Ibbotson will try and get a better view of that. I think that might have been Simon Ibbotson, but I'm not too sure. It was a kind of educated guess, I'll say.
It was a very good guess indeed, Chris. I think it was Simon Ibbotson, as you say. But just mentioning about Mick Lee, who hasn't won a race so far this season, 9 podiums, 8 third places behind Jack Walters and Mick Williams in the championship. Now, he very nearly won last time at Tattershall, race number 1 coming from the sidecars. Last lap between Jack Walters and Mick Lee, and they bumped into each other a number of times and they ended up crashing into each other, with Mick Lee going off the circuit and crashing through the barriers. Thankfully they were all okay and managed to get back into the session, into the rest of the weekend. But the sidecars are having a tough time out there. As we can see, there's big puddles all around the circuit, especially coming out of the first chicane and through that section of track there. We've got one of the riders trying to avoid the puddles at all costs while the other one just steams through it.
Well, I think we're being told lots of standing water down at the final corner, and I think that's probably what caught our friend Aaron Peril out. So that seems to be a dangerous part of the circuit at the moment, and not an ideal place to have loads of standing water. Yeah, look at that coming out the first chicane.
Yeah, we've got the passenger looking back at that river there.
We had someone come into the pits as well. Clearly they had enough already.
Yeah, so sometimes the sidecars only get a lap in and then they just decide to give it a day.
Basically just thought, I'll start 6th. I'll happily start 6th with the weather like this. So you can see that. Now, how tricky is this, Liam? On bikes, with standing water, how do you negotiate it?
Well, sometimes the best thing to do is slow down, obviously, but sometimes you don't see it too well. But on a bike, as you can feel in a car most of the time, is when you hit a standing water, it just slows you down. But on a bike, it just feels 10 times worse because you crash through it, especially on a mini moto. It just slows you down and it can unsettle the bike. It means that you might aquaplane a little bit and you've got no grip left and you just go down, which might have happened to Brandon Peril in the last session in the Extreme 200, especially coming out of the chicane here. That's you running over a bit of curbing as well, which will unsettle the bike. It's sort of like a river, so it's not doing too well. We know that the circuit has tried to put in place lots of drainage, especially in the final corner, to try and get rid of these puddles that are gathering, but it just doesn't seem to have done too much.
You're just mentioning aquaplaning there, for the viewers who may have never ridden a bike before or never raced anything before. What does that feel like exactly?
It doesn't feel great. It feels like ice basically, so as soon as you hit that, then you've just lost all feeling of the bike. Luckily, if you go through it quick enough and it doesn't settle too much, you can still hold it. But then again, if it's very deep, then you lose all control of the bike and there's nothing you can do there. So you're basically just a passenger in that sense.
It's like driving a car in snow, essentially.
Yes, absolutely. So I've never driven a car in snow, but I can imagine that'll be it. But we're looking back on track. We've got Russ Morgan, who's in 6th spot, 9.4 seconds off the lead. So an unfortunate thing happened to Russ last time out at Tattershall. Race number 1, he pulled off the circuit without his passenger on the back. Turned out that from gripping on for so long, there was a bit of a comical moment, but his passenger got a bit of arm pump, so he couldn't hold on anymore and just sort of slipped off, and Russ got around the rest of the circuit and just wondering why the bike was handling so differently. So that was the reason. Turns out his passenger there used to be a speedway rider, so I think he'd be used to the forces of a motorbike.
Well, there we go then. Always interesting to hear. A lot of people giving the thumbs up to our camera down the back straight, and I know we're early in the weekend, but we're going to have to give a big shout out to our crew today, our 3 cameramen who are scattered around the circuit. They're going to be getting a lot of those guys, particularly the cameraman who is behind this exact camera, packed for the sun only. So isn't exactly dressed for the weather today. Let's just say that. And, it's going to be a bit of a torrid day for him, but thankfully just one set of races today. We've got 2 tomorrow. We've got a full day of coverage tomorrow, but we're going to be going all the way till 5 o'clock today. We've got 9 races coming up for you, 1 per class. Qualifying has officially now ended. In this session, it was Mick Williams who was fastest by 1 second ahead of Paul Quarters Jr. Jack Walters was third. Then we had Mark Parker, Simon Ibbotson and Ross Morgan. It was actually Jack Walters who did the 1 lap and came in. Not actually a bad session, 3rd place. So I think he'll probably want to do that more often, to be honest. So
yeah, just got a bit of an eye in for the water. But Paul Quarters Jr. beating Jack Quarters for the first time in the season in qualifying, so he's doing very well there.
There we go. He's buying the beers later then, is he?
He will be.
Well, there we go. Qualifying has now ended. Any big surprises for you, Liam?
Well, I think for the Pit Big 140, we've got, of course, Harvey Claridge 2 seconds quicker than the entire field, so that's got to be the biggest surprise of the day so far. And of course the Extreme 200s, we've got Joshua Watley and Harvey Claridge pushing the likes of Richard Holmes Williams, and we've got Ellie Pinson up there as well. So we've got lots of new names that are up in the front. We've had Carter Brown in the Mini GP50s giving us some great action and providing some great pace, but unfortunately qualifying just missing out a little bit. So since the rain is coming down, we're going to see lots of different riders up the front, and some of the riders that are up the front battling for championships, such as Josh Bannister in the Mini GP50s, struggling a little bit. So it's all to play for here at Lydd in Kent.
Well, thanks for joining us down in Lydd. We're at the south coast of England. This is round number 5 of the FAB-Racing British Mini Bikes Championship. I'm Chris McCarthy. That is Liam Hodgins. If you haven't seen us before, then it's good to see you. Thanks for being with us, whichever platform you are joining us on. It's going to be a fantastic afternoon of racing. Wet conditions, and very wet conditions for the first time this season. We've had scattered showers at times, particularly at Red Lodge, but this is the first time that we are full wet conditions, and we are about to go racing. So wait no longer. We can hear the bikes which are literally below us have been getting fired up, and there we go for our first race of the weekend. It's going to be the AC40 rookies, and let's give you the grid. Blake Wilson is going to be starting from pole position on the number 108, did a 106.641 in qualifying, 4th in the championship, 1 win so far, so could double that today. Then 7 podiums as well, so good stuff so far for Blake Wilson, but can he get his 2nd win of the season? Alongside is going to be Archie Gibbs, championship leader, 7 wins so far, 10 podium finishes in total. Archie Gibbs, though, was over 1 second back from Blake Wilson, so a surprise result there. Ollie Sims is 3rd, 2nd in the championship, 4 wins and 9 podiums, 10th in the championship, and on the outside of row 2 it is Joshua Williams. Fantastic performance. Luke Fitchett is going to be on row 3, 3rd in the championship for him, 8 podium finishes. Marco Holt yet to finish on the podium. Could this be his chance? Casey Sperry, 9th in the championship, starts 7th. Then we have Thorley Trevorrow, 18th in the championship, up in 8th. Then we have Arnie Carr on 9th place. Brandon Keane, 5th in the championship, just the 1 podium so far, 10th place. Then it's Archie O'Brien, Wilson Dilks. Then we have Bailey Lawrence, William Harris, Harry Payne is 15th, and it's Max Wilson, Chloe Saul, Izzy Carter, Minnie Rossi, and then we have Callum Maxwell and Tristan Poyser.
Yes, so we've got the riders lining up on the grid. The marshals, the dads, the mums of the riders are all out there making sure that the kids are ready and okay. The bikes are all up to scratch, but Blake Wilson is showing some fantastic pace so far this weekend in the wet conditions, over a second quicker than second place of Archie Gibbs. That is fantastic riding by Blake Wilson, so I wouldn't be too surprised if we see him shooting off from the front of the pack. Some last minute checks to the riders at the back of the grid, making sure that they're in the right grid positions before we start off in the race. Look, we've got 20 riders in this race so far, so it might be a very chaotic race, but fingers crossed it won't be. But we've got, of course, Joshua Williams, 10th in the championship, who's starting in a very, very good position, his best so far of the season. But are you ready? We will be getting started for the AC40 rookies. I don't know if we might get another wee lap in, just to get another lap in, another feel for it because of the puddles, the wet conditions. But the riders are looking ready. It doesn't look like it'll be a green flag lap. It looks like we're going to get going. So as the flag will go up in a few seconds time, they're down and the riders are pushing themselves away. Great start by Archie Gibbs. Our championship leader moves into first position through the first corner. Blake Wilson slows into second. Across the puddle they go. We're looking at Luke Fitchett there on bike number 96 as well as they head down towards the second chicane. But look at Archie Gibbs. Doesn't matter if he was over a second slow in qualifying, he's still pulled out a second lead at the start of this race. We've got a couple of riders down, tangled at this chicane. The one's up, stomping down. The other one's picking his bike up, furious from the yellow Dayglow suited rider. So fingers crossed that both of them can get back into the race, and they are okay. But back at the front of the field, we've got a marshal running. I don't know if they've just seen that rider fall down. Yes, they have, so the marshal stopped. But that looks like the number 333 there, but Archie Gibbs. So that was Brandon Keane was one of them that went down. Wasn't sure if they were tripped up by Thorley Trevorrow or Archie O'Brien. So Brandon Keane and Big 3-3 back up, back okay, back in the race. But look at this, it's Archie Gibbs who's pulling a massive gap at the front of the field. Can Blake Wilson reel him back in? Can Ollie Sims, your former championship leader, do anything about the top two? As we come around the final corners, a bit of a move there further down the field. Not quite sure who that was as they head away from us, just moving past the Dayglow yellow and black rider. But Blake Wilson's caught back up to Archie Gibbs. We could see Blake Wilson catching back up and challenging Gibbs for the lead of this race, Chris.
Yep, so Archie Gibbs, the leader. Fantastic start to the race, but Blake Wilson, who qualified on pole position by 1.4 seconds, is closing back in, has 7 more laps to take the lead back, so just has to be patient in this one. Ollie Sims over 2 seconds back from this group, so Ollie Sims is going to have to try and close that gap back down, and also manage the gap behind to Luke Fitchett, who is very close in company. Here we can see the two leaders getting close together. On the number 108, that is Blake Wilson. On the number 3, that is Archie Gibbs, as they tip their way into the first of these 2 hairpins, which only the smaller bikes are going to be using. That's the second hairpin. Then we come into a left, which tips us straight into a double right, and that is how we finish the lap here at Lydd. This will complete lap number 2. Archie Gibbs had a lead of 0.4 of a second. Let's see if that's still the gap as they come across the line. It is. It's come down, but only by hundredths. Then we have Sims. Marco Holt has just come up to 4th place, followed by Casey Sperry. Joshua Williams likewise. It's been a bad lap for Fitchett, who's dropped down to 8th place. Arnie Carr in 7th. Payne and Lawrence round out the top 10.
Casey Spady, keep an eye on Casey Spady on bike number 20. We're talking to his parents this weekend, and this is the first track that he's come to that his rivals don't know already, so he's been showing strong pace in the wet and the dry. So starting from further down the grid, he's now moved up to 5th spot, chasing down Marco Holt and Ollie Sims. But as we can see, the two leaders of this race taking very different lanes as they make their way onto the back straight. We've got Wilson gets great drive off the penultimate corner, nearly looking up the inside. That looks like a move that could be happening in the next couple of laps. Blake Wilson looks over his shoulder across the other end of the circuit. Got a back marker moving out the way, chasing down the championship leader. There's only 9 thousandths of a second gap between the two leaders as they come across the line to finish off lap number 3. Can it be the start of lap number 4 that Blake Wilson will be hoping for to take the lead of this race? But they're very, very different in riding styles, and they find a stronger point of the circuit round the Lydd course. But look at Blake Wilson once again, It's getting great run off of these tight corners that Archie Gibbs just can't seem to find at the moment. So Wilson looks a little bit happier, a little bit more comfortable. Gibbs looks like he's pushing a lot more, taking wider lines, sweeping lines to try and get the power down without burning up the traction.
Well, what Liam was referring to about Casey Sperry, this is the first time the championship has been to Lydd for 3 years. So some of the riders, it's going to be a completely new track for them, especially at this level, because this is the AC14 rookies, so the most least experienced drivers. As here comes Blake Wilson. Is this just a preferred line, or was that a dive down the inside, I wonder, because the gap was just 2 tenths last time they crossed the line. This is the battle for 5th place between the likes of Casey Sperry. I think we're seeing Marco Holt in there potentially in 4th place. Is that? No, that is Casey Sperry in the middle of our picture. So behind that is Joshua Williams and Arnie Carr that we are looking at. This is our battle for 5th place. We are following on screen at the moment as we've had a change for lead. Change for lead. Blake Wilson has hit the front. Our pole sitter is back where he started. Blake Wilson set the new fastest lap in the process as well, and I think we're going to pick up our leaders for you now. A 106.9 as we've had someone stop. Now, is that Tristan Poyser, I wonder, because that was the only rider not to complete lap number 3. So Tristan, unfortunately, has pulled up down the back straight. Yellow flags waving as well. But new leader, or shall I say, pole sitter back in the lead. And there he is, Liam.
He's looking at commanding it form at the moment, finding a lot more confidence on the track compared to Archie Gibbs and Ollie Sims, who seem to be setting up at places they don't want to be. Blake Wilson looking very comfortable, just taking a wee long look over his shoulder through the hairpin, and as they come across the back markers, getting through them nice and easily. We've got Archie Gibbs still trying to chase him down, but that gap looks like it's opened up massively over this lap here. Coming across start finish line now, starting another lap. 3 laps to go. Blake Wilson has got a 2.4 second lead over Archie Gibbs, 1.4 seconds faster on that last lap. If anything, Archie Gibbs might have to worry about 3rd spot. Ollie Sims looks like he's catching a little bit in 3rd spot. Casey Spady is now up to 4th spot, so Casey Spady making moves, and he's only a few seconds further behind Ollie Sims, so if he can maybe get a move on, he might be able to catch the back of Ollie Sims. Marco Holt showing great performance in 5th ahead of Joshua Williams. Luke Fitcher had a bit of a troubled start, is showing consistent pace ahead of Arnie Carr, Harry Payne and Bailey Lawrence rounding out the top 10. But look at Blake Wilson, just looks like he's racing in the dry. It looks like he's found so much confidence there, and as he head into the hairpin, will he look over his shoulder once again just to see where Archie Gibbs is? As he does that, so he's looking very, very, very consistent at the moment, Chris.
Yes, he is indeed. Well, just looking at the timing screen, we've got Blake Wilson leading from Gibbs, Sims in 3rd, Casey Sperry being shown in 4th place, and then it is Marco Holt, Joshua Williams, Luke Fitchett has just gone past Arnie Carr for 7th, then it is Payne Lawrence, Archie O'Brien is just outside the top 10 as is Brandon Keane, then it's Trevorrow, Wilson, Harris, Sewell, Izzy Carter is down in 17th place, Minnie Rossi, and we've got Callum Maxwell, Wilson Dilts. Unfortunately, Tristan Poyser no longer in the race. I think Wilson Dilts may have hit problems somewhere as well, but Blake Wilson is our rider out front, looking for his 2nd win of the season, 4th in the championship, so this would certainly edge him closer to the top 3. 3.1 second lead now as well, so the timing screen you're seeing to the left of your picture slightly different to the one we're seeing, so we'll give you the up-to-date live timing, and so I'd say ignore that graphic on the left of your screen for the time being. But Blake Wilson it is who is leading, 3.1 seconds ahead of Gibbs. Looking at battles, I'd say 5th place battle is where we want to be, because Joshua Williams and Luke Fitchett have just gone past Marco Holt, and that's who we're following. The number 96 is Luke Fitchett in 6th place, chasing down Joshua Williams, who's on the 78. Unfortunately, Liam, Marco Holt has just dropped to 7th place on the number 58, and has Arnie Carr only 1 second behind, and this is the group now. Arnie Carr on the number 83, just trying to chase down the number 58 of Marco Holt, and then this, who we're watching, is Luke Fitchett trying to chase down Joshua Williams.
Yes, look at Casey Spadey. He's in 4th spot, but he's got Luke Fitchett and Joshua Williams homing in on him. Joshua Williams is sizing up a move. So we're on the final lap of the race. We've got Blake Wilson further around the circuit on the bike 108, but we're looking back at the battle further down the field for 4th, 5th and 6th position. Casey Spadey 20, Joshua Williams 78, Luke Fitchett on bike number 6. We will keep a close eye on that to see who will get 4th position before the end of the race, but we've picked up our leader. It's Blake Wilson coming through the final corner, easing his way towards a second win of the season for Blake Wilson.
Yep, down the start-finish straight. 2 wins then for Blake Wilson it is this season. Very, very happy with that. What a performance from Blake Wilson. Is going to win by a huge amount here because Archie Gibbs has not even crossed the line yet. It's going to be a dominant performance from Blake Wilson. 1 down, 2 to go. And Ollie Sims actually came across the line in second place. Archie Gibbs must be off the circuit somewhere because he is tumbling down the order. Our championship leader has hip problems on this final lap, it seems. Ollie Sims finishes in second place unless it is a timing issue that we are seeing. So we won't say that with any certainty just yet, but we will say that perhaps it's a timing issue, and Gibbs did come across the line in second, so the rest of the order will read it as that may be an issue. Is Sims, Sperry, Williams, Fitchett, Holt, Carr, Payne, Lawrence, Keane. Rounding out the top 10, Archie O'Brien. Then it's Trevorrow, Wilson, Harris, Sewell, Carter, Maxwell, Poyser, Dilks. Provisional order, we'll have to say at the moment, as we fear there may have been a timing issue that we picked up there on that final lap. But what we do know, and we can say with complete certainty, we followed it to the line. Blake Wilson takes the win by a huge amount of time. Now, who is that walking back?
Archie Gibbs walking back.
Is that Archie Gibbs walking back to pit lane? It is. We think it is. So that may not have been a timing issue after all. That may have been Archie Gibbs hitting problems on the last lap. Championship leader, 7 wins and 10 podiums so far this season. Was that hitting problems, I wonder? If we take a look at the championship, Archie Gibbs is 20 points clear.
Yeah, so we're just getting confirmation that that is the right order. Blake Wilson from Sims, from Casey Spadey, who takes his first podium of the year. Great result there from Casey Spadey, but disaster there from Archie Gibbs.
And that means that Ollie Sims and Archie Gibbs are now tied at the top of the standings, with Sims finishing second. He gets 20 points. That was the gap between he and Gibbs before this race started. We have the top 2 in the championship now tied at the top, but we have Blake Wilson getting closer to the pair of them, because that was a fantastic victory for him. Ollie Sims second, Casey Sperry finished in 3rd place, and that is the first podium for Casey Sperry this season. So congratulations to Casey Sperry, fantastic stuff. Ollie Sims, that is the 10th podium of the season for him. So I'll quickly do a full run through then. It's Wilson, Sims and Sperry, Williams, then we had Fitchett, Holt, Carr, Payne, Lawrence, Keane, O'Brien, Wilson, Archie Gibbs, Trevorrow, Harris, Sewell, Minnie Rossi, Izzy Carter, then it was Maxwell, Tristan Poyser and Wilson Dilksley.
Yes, incredible last lap there. Dramatic that Archie Gibbs pulled off. We're not too sure what happened with Archie Gibbs, your championship leader, on the final lap, but Blake Wilson will be heading home tonight, very happy with his first win of the weekend, second win of the season, so he'll be hoping to continue that, as we've got the mini GP70s making their way on to the race circuit now. So on pole position, we're going to have 5th place in the championship with 5 podiums so far this season. Ryan Hitchcock on bike number 43, ahead of former championship leader James Cook. I say former championship leader, is tied on points with Evan Belford, but second in championship. 1 win this season, 8 podiums. Evan Belford, his championship rival, first in the championship, 7 wins and 8 podiums. Starts from 3rd spot ahead of Joe Farragher, who is 21st in the championship. So Joe Farragher showing great performance so far this weekend on bike number 47, ahead of Harrison Crosby in 8th place in the championship, 5th spot on the grid. Kyle Payne, who is 11th in the championship, showing great pace in 8th spot, before we've got to Ollie Walker, who just in front of him on bike number 48, second in the championship, 1 win so far this season, back at Clay Pigeon, and 3 podiums as well. Dylan Miller, who we spoke to a little bit earlier on, is just behind Johnny Garnes, who is 9th in the championship with 2 podium positions. Thomas Gomez on bike number 98 ahead of Carter Brown, who's been showing great pace so far this weekend in the wet conditions, but unfortunately hitting some trouble earlier on today, so qualifies down in 12th. Bailey Stewart Campbell struggling in the wet conditions so far, who's 4th in the championship with 3 podiums and a lot of lap records so far in the 2019 FAB-Racing British Mini Bike Championship, will be 13th ahead of Owen Mellor, who's 10th in the championship, Saffron Watley in 15th, Alfie Davidson in 16th, and then we've got Finn Smart on bike number 14, and rounding out your runners and riders for the start of the Mini GP70s.
Well, Mini GP70 there, you can see riders on the grid, 17 strong for this one. Very, very close in qualifying, just 2.5 tenths between the top 4, less than half a second between our top 5, and there were less than a second between the top 7. Very, very close. It is going to be a tough one to call, this one. Mini GP70, one of our premier classes on the road to MotoGP. Here we go, to the right of your picture, that is James Cook. To the left, that is Ryan Hitchcock. Here we go for the start of the race, and we're off, and that looks like Evan Belford was it taking the lead in towards turn number 1 as they tip their way through the right, into the left and into the right. Let's hope we all get through nice and safely then as we now head down to the second chicane. Lots of spray as Mini GP70 get underway for the first time of the weekend. Now we charge down towards the hairpin. Thankfully there has been no incidents so far as we come out of the hairpin and down towards the left-hander, flat-out left-hander in the Mini GP70s. And then we come to the next chicane, which will take us down to the final corner. The Mini GP70s will not use those 2 hairpins which we have seen being used. There we can see the number 51 right in the middle of the pack as we come down towards the final corner, Liam.
Yes, a great start, very clean start from all the Mini GP70 riders, which is fantastic news. But James Cook, very, 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 very fast off the start of the race, and importantly is in front of his championship rival Evan Belford, both tied on points at the top of the championship on 211. Belford taking 7 race wins this year, Cook only 1 so far, but Cook has a bit of an advantage, nearly a second advantage over Belford at bike number 52. Ryan Hitchcock, we've got to keep an eye on him because he was starting from pole position, so showing great pace in the wet conditions from qualifying a little bit earlier on. Eddie O'Shea, who's in 5th spot, we were told earlier on, is a very, very good rider in the wet conditions, so keep an eye out on the number 114 of Eddie O'Shea making some progress through this race. And Johnny Garnes, who got a podium last time out at Tattershall in race number 3, is sitting pretty in 6th spot ahead of Joe Farragher on bike number 47. Bailey Stewart Campbell's made up 5 spots from the start, moving from 13th to 8th ahead of Ollie Walker, who's dropped down a few positions from 7th on the grid down to 9th ahead of Dylan Miller, who's just ahead of Cale Payne, Carter Brown and his brother of Owen Mellor. So Chris, it looks like James Cook is off and running at the moment. He's half a second quicker than Belford in that last lap. His gap is now 1.4 seconds.
Yeah, Cook and Belford tied at the top of the standings as well, so whoever finishes ahead out of these 2 will go into tomorrow the championship leader. At the moment, James Cook looks the favourite to do that as we're side by side going into the right-hander. Oh, a wobble there on the front wheel, almost contact. I think did well to avoid it. That looked like Eddie O'Shea, I believe, who was almost running straight into the back of Harrison Crosby. We pick that battle up now going in towards the final corner. There you can see in the green levers, that is Eddie O'Shea down the inside of Crosby and takes that place, but on the switchback Crosby comes back in the black crash helmet there in red leathers. The number 69 of Crosby back into 4th place. Crucially out ahead of this, Evan Belford has just set the fastest lap and closed the gap to James Cook, but it's a large gap still at the moment, so we'll keep you updated on that and stay with this. This is the best battle we have on track at the moment. It's between Harrison Crosby and Eddie O'Shea, 4th and 5th respectively. Hitchcock is just up the road from this at the moment, but this is a great battle. Oh, fortunately, yellow flag, rider down somewhere.
Is that James Cook? That could be James
Was
Cook.
that James Cook? Who
I'm
went
not
down?
sure the FSD. I could be very wrong about that, so I'm not going to make predictions at the
we won't
moment.
presume just yet. We'll wait till they cross the line.
Yes, but some great action. Evan Belford chasing down your race leader at the moment. Eddie O'Shea sizing up Harrison Crosby. So we've got the fastest lap caption on screen at the moment. But yes,
I think it was James Cook,
it was James Cook that went down. Evan Belford takes the lead of this race. James Cook has crashed from the lead of this race somewhere in the circuit, but it looks like he's back up and running okay. But this is great news for Belford. Disaster for James Cook, especially in terms of the championship, where Belford will be extending his championship lead as long as he can still stay on the bike. But we've now got a battle for third position between Crosby and O'Shea. Can O'Shea get the run out of the corner? Not doing it just yet. Over the brow of the hill, takes a wider line compared to Crosby, trying to miss that puddle which is there. So if you hit that, it's going to be disaster for your front tyre. But we've got a leader here, looks over his shoulder, look and see where James Cook has gone. Well, he crashed out, so you're in the lead of the race, Evan, so don't look over your shoulder too much and lose your concentration. But as we can see, we've got Ryan Hitchcock on bike number 43 trying to catch your leader. So as they already coming across at back markers through the chicane, nice and easily across the puddle to go. Belford is still leading this race.
Well, that was on the screen there, don't get too confused, that was Evan Belford going past the back marker, and Evan Belford taking his time in doing so as well. Now 2.3 seconds clear. This is your race leader and championship leader. If he stays where he is, Evan Belford, who was tied on points with Cook, will now extend that lead. Hitchcock second place at the moment. Ryan Hitchcock doing a brilliant job at the moment. This would be his sixth podium finish if he can finish here. And Eddie O'Shea has gone past Harrison Crosby whilst we've been looking away. So Eddie O'Shea into third place. Harrison Crosby down to fourth. We'll go through your top 10 as this is now 6 laps completed. It is Garness in fifth and Farragut, Walker, Stuart Campbell, Dylan Mellor and then Carl Payne. We need to pick up this battle for second though, because it looks like Eddie O'Shea has passed and gone as caught and passed Ryan Hitchcock. There you can see Eddie O'Shea in the middle of your picture, so did that very, very quickly. I tell you what, Belford needs to keep up the pace here, because Eddie O'Shea is looking incredibly quick out there, has already gone past Ryan Hitchcock and left him behind. Hitchcock could now come under pressure from Crosby, and this looks like the battle for the lead developing.
Look at this, Eddie O'Shea has completely sliced into Belford's lead, so sizing through the field. Within one lap he went from fourth to second. As he come across the start-finish line now, this has surely got to be the fastest lap of the race between Eddie O'Shea. So Eddie O'Shea, new fastest lap of the race, a 50.2 from O'Shea. That is the quickest lap we've seen in the wet conditions from them. The Mini GP 70s so far this weekend is right on the back of Belford. Belford has been looking all over his shoulders to see where Eddie O'Shea is, so that's possibly given O'Shea the chance to catch up to the leader. But O'Shea could be on for his first win of the season, well, since Clandau back in round number 1. So this is O'Shea's chance to really stomp his authority back on the championship battle, especially with Cook down in 13th spot at the moment. That's only 2 points, but he's got a great run onto the back straight. Belford looks over his shoulder once again, down towards the final corner. We've just got O'Shea sizing up. Belford at the moment just sitting behind. We've got a crasher. No. That's one of the Mellors. That's Dylan Mellor down at the second chicane there. He's up and he's okay. Disaster for Dylan, who's had a few big problems so far this weekend, but glad to see that Dylan Mellor is back up. But as the yellow flags wave, not a chance for your leaders to make an overtake just yet. But Belford has got O'Shea all over the back. We've seen O'Shea very good on the power as they come out the tight corners, especially through this next right-hander. Can O'Shea get the power down and try and make a move on Belford towards the next turn, Chris?
Well, let's have a look then as they come out of the hairpin. Eddie O'Shea, is it only a matter of time? They've got back markers they're closing in on as well. This is not good news for Evan Belford, who's going to be getting very, very frustrated now, as here comes Eddie O'Shea down the inside. They go either side of one of the back markers there, and Eddie O'Shea, is he going to get down the inside at the final corner? He can't. So Eddie O'Shea, well, he's still going to have 3 laps to go when they cross the line this time, but they're having to pick their way through back markers and fight for the race lead here. Eddie O'Shea in second place there ahead. That is Evan Belford. Well, Eddie O'Shea, we have to remember, absolutely dominated the first round of the championship, taking all 3 wins, but hasn't stood on the top step since. Could this be Eddie O'Shea's time to take his 4th win of the season? He's got 2.5 laps now, Liam, to pass Evan Belford.
He's very good through this next section of track. Coming out of the final corner, we've got a change of third. Oh, a bit of a moment there for O'Shea. Nearly sorts himself out of the seat there, but stays on the bike. There's going to be just 2 laps remaining, but Harrison Crosby has moved into 3rd spot ahead of Ryan Hitchcock. We've got Belford from O'Shea. O'Shea still all over the back of Belford as they go through the chicane section here, through the puddle any second now. We've still got O'Shea trying to find a way past your championship leader of Evan Belford. James Cook is down in 11th, so he's made up a couple of positions after he came off, so he's picking up 4 points if he finishes where he is. And Belford crashes or takes the race win. It's going to be 21 points between the two, but we've got Belford still in front of O'Shea as they come out the hairpin down towards the second hairpin on that section of track. The back mark of Dylan Mellon moves out of the way. Eddie O'Shea puts his hand up to say thanks, as we won't have any issues from the back markers. Down towards the back section of track, can O'Shea get the power down? It doesn't look like it just yet, but can he be late on the brakes into the final turn? He's not doing it just yet. Still holding station for the moment, Chris. The final lap comes up now.
Yep, here they come then, down towards the first chicane for the final time. Eddie O'Shea has been very, very patient in his approach yet. Is it sensible, or has Eddie O'Shea waited too long, I wonder, because his pace has dropped off since catching Evan Belford, which is a sign that he is just waiting to meet. But Evan Belford putting up a very good stern defence here as they come down to the hairpin for the final time. Eddie O'Shea just can't find a way through, Liam.
No, he can't at all, but he's looking all over. The bikes go light as it will go over the crest of the hill there. Through the puddles they go. Belford is doing a great defensive ride, but as they get the power down, he's taking a a bit of a moment there from Belford. Can O'Shea find an opportunity to make the way up the inside? Not doing it yet. Belford defensive into the final turn, through the final corner, across the puddles as they come across start finish line. Can it be O'Shea? Can it be Belford? Belford looks over his shoulder. It's Belford who takes the race win ahead of Eddie O'Shea. Great defensive riding there from your championship leader. O'Shea just misses out on his first win since round number 1 at Clandow. In 3rd spot is Harrison Crosby, and we're waiting for Ryan Hitchcock to come across the line. He does so now. Big battle there further down the order. That is going to be Johnny Garness picking up 5th. Another top 5 position there from Johnny Garness. Ollie Walker on bike number 48 finishes in 6th ahead of Joe Farragher. We're waiting for the other runners and riders. Where will James Cook, your early race leader, finish? We've got someone down at the end of the race.
Yeah.
Oh, that looks like a horrible crash there. The fast right-hander going on to the back straight.
Well, that's going to be, I think that's Thomas Gomez, actually. Yes, it is. So Thomas Gomez, unfortunately, going down. But let's get the order for you then, as it finished at the end of 12 laps. Evan Belford takes the win by just 1/10 of a second from Eddie O'Shea. Belford, championship leader now, with Cook going down. Was in the lead, but now no longer tied for the lead. Eddie O'Shea, a great performance there on the podium once again. That is his 5th of the season. Harrison Crosby finishes in 3rd place. 9 podiums in total for him now. Then it's Hitchcock, Garness rounded out the top 5, Walker, Farragher, Payne, James Cook recovered to 9th, Bailey Stewart Campbell rounds out your top 10. Then it's Carter Brown, Owen Mellor, and that is Thomas Gomez walking back from 13th place. Saffron Watley, Alfie Davidson, Dylan Mellor and Finn Smart, your full order.
So lots of great action there from the mini GP70s that you're listening to, and of course watching the 2019 British FAB-Racing Mini Bikes Championship here from round number 5 at Lydd in Kent. The sun was shining over the weekend. It's not now, it's raining, and we'll get, of course, getting lots of great action throughout all classes. We've got 2 races down, we've got 7 to go before the end of today. And Chris, very quickly talking about the Mini GP70s, it wasn't a lot of action out there, but it was a race that built up to crescendo at the end. What was the moment for you to pick out from that race?
Well, I think Cook going down was probably the biggest moment. We had he and Belford tied for the championship, and yeah, I know we're not near the last round yet, but as I said at the start of qualifying, as we get later into the season, those gaps between in between the championship leaders feel even bigger as you get later into the season. Cookie won't be too happy with that, but look, he's got 2 races tomorrow to make up for it. We knew that there was going to be drama in the wet conditions. There was. Eddie O'Shea, very impressive. Since that first round, he hasn't been able to take a win yet. That must feel like he's putting even more pressure on himself every time he goes through a round without taking a win. Came very close today, but I think he was sensible in almost settling for the second place. He never saw an opportunity to take the win, a clear-cut opportunity, and I think sensibly, it's easy at this level to just dive down the inside and take you and your competitor out, but I think sensible, showing experience beyond his years there, Eddie O'Shea, to settle for second. We had lots of battling going on behind as well, up and down the order, as we always have in Mini GP 70. But I think the main thing is the conditions are just so tough. Anyone that comes home on the bike, I think, has done a good job out there, because it is just that tough. Lydd is a tough circuit. We haven't been here for 3 years. Some of the riders may not have any experience at all in the wet round here. This might be literally the first day they're going out there in the wet, and we've got to take that into mind as well. So, let's get into the grid then, shall we? I will just pick that up for you now. It's going to be AC40 Pro. Mason Foster, championship leader, will be starting from pole position. 10 wins for him so far this season. Then we have Finn and Werity starting in second, 5th in the championship. Not a podium or a win though so far, so great chance for Finnan to up those statistics. Likewise, Warwick Brady, 7th in the championship, hasn't had a podium so far. Samuel Munson is 3rd in the championship, 9 podiums so far. Charlie Huntingford and Ruben Bray are row number 3. 2 other riders yet to be on the podium, so we could see some new riders appear to the top 3 this season. Clayton Edmonds goes off row number 4 with 2nd in the championship, Ethan Sparks. Then we have Henry McCartney and Greg Marshall going off row number 5. Then it's Holly Harris, Luke Schofield and Jacob Stevenson.
Oh, there was a bit of a jump start there, so the start has been aborted for the second time in the championship's 2019 history. So we had it a little bit earlier on in the season back at Clay Pigeon, but they're just setting the bikes back up again, so I wasn't too sure if the flag didn't drop. But as we've got the Marshall pulling off towards the edge of the circuit, the riders have started, away they go, and Mason Foster gets a great start. But look at this, Warwick Brady nearly makes a move up the inside into 3rd spot. It looked like there Warwick Brady might have made a move for the lead, but Mason Foster, your championship leader, away and clear from the likes of Finn and Werity in second position. Now we've got some riders further back making some moves up the inside. Will it be a great race from Mason Foster? Can we get another crescendo of a last lap like we did back at Tattershall? But that back then it was in dry conditions. Right now we are in the wet at the moment. So Mason Foster, your championship leader, with 10 wins so far this season, 11 podiums in that time, is leading the way. Finn and Werity, 5th in the championship, started second, still second, and Warwick Brady, who's 7th place in the championship on bike number 99, a very colourful bike indeed, is in 3rd spot. We thought for a second he's going to take the lead of the race, but he's still slotted into 3rd. Great start to his race for the moment. But looking at the front of the field, we're looking at timings. It looks like Mason Foster's just pulling out a bit of a gap ahead of Finn and Werity. We've got a move up the inside through the chicane section. One rider goes past, the other one says not today and just holds it as we start lap number 2. But look at the gap at the front of the field. Foster from Werity, 8/10 of a second advantage. Then 2.2 seconds further back is Warwick Brady.
Yep, then we have Ruben Bray in, just going up the order. Ruben Bray is in 6th, but ahead of that it is Samuel Munson in 4th, Huntingford in 5th. Then we have Ruben Bray in 6th, Ethan Sparks is 7th, Clayton Edmonds is 8th, and it's Greg Marshall and Henry McCartney. Now the gap between Foster and Werity was about 8/10 of a second. To the eye, that appears to be extending as they come through the second lap. There we can see Finn and Werity in picture now, just behind. A very small look over the shoulder there from Mason Foster, our championship leader, leading the way in race number 1 in the wet conditions here at Lydd. And Foster doing a fantastic job there. Then it's Werity, Brady 3rd place, Munson 4th, Huntingford 5th. Closest battles look to be going from 5th place and down, as Ruben Bray has just gone past Charlie Huntingford. Ethan Sparks also getting involved in that one as well. And not too far behind that as well, Liam, we have the likes of Edmonds and Marshall.
Yeah, some great rides going on further down the field. Now it looks like we've had Mason Foster make a couple of mistakes. We've got someone down at the second chicane. They're very quick to go down, very quick to get back up. Bike looks like it stopped, so the marshal is going to try and get that bike started again. Not sure who that is, but thankfully the rider is up and okay as the bike is getting pulled off the edge of the circuit. So maybe just try and get that started again. But we've got Foster, as I was saying, it looks like he's making a couple of mistakes, losing the front a few times as his outside foot comes off the foot peg, but thankfully still staying on board his number 88 machine. Finn Werity is 1.7 seconds back, so we've got a new fastest lap of the race from Foster, a 1 minute .915. Coming across start finish line now to start a new lap. That is Foster ahead of Werity. What's the gap going to be now? It's 3.5 seconds, so extending it by nearly 2 seconds a lap. Yellow flags are still out for that rider that went down a couple of laps ago. They're back up and they're back in the race, so thankfully that looks like it's going to be Jacob Stevenson on bike number 67 who's back in the race after he went off. But Chris, we've got a great ride here from Foster, who's once again putting in a commanding display of taking this race win and the championship.
Now, that was a real shame that from Jacob Stevenson. Started off the back of the field. A new name to ourselves up here in the commentary box. Mason Foster, you can see out front here in view for you on the live stream. And an absolute masterclass so far for Mason Foster. Over 3 seconds clear in the space of just 3 laps. And didn't do that all on the first lap. Believe me, it's been done gradually. Mason Foster, here he comes across the line to complete lap number 4. And no surprise that another very fast lap. Not the fastest lap he's done in the race. I think already Mason Foster, with 4 laps to go, is just starting to maybe ease off slightly. Now over 5 seconds clear, really doesn't need to be taking any unnecessary risks. Finn Werity second, Brady third. The closest battles though is going on for 5th place. Charlie Huntingford on that number 76 bike has got the number 146 of Clayton Edmonds, only less than a tenth behind. Then it's Henry McCartney on the 31. Greg Marshall was in that as well on the number 19. So Charlie Huntingford on the number 76. There we can see Huntingford at the head of this little group of bikes. And it's very, very close here, Liam, for the back of the top 5.
This is a great wee gaggle for the top 5, as you mentioned. Just in front of them, look at who it is. It's Ruben Bray just in front of them, so they're catching 4th spot. Charlie Huntingford taking the race win. A bit of a moment there.
Greg Marshall.
That was a great move there by Greg Marshall, setting up another rider. So great battle going on here, back and forth. Pass and repass through the infield section of track. So this infield section is really working very well for the many moto riders here. If they can get up the inside, they might run a little bit wide, and then the rider they've just overtaken has an opportunity to squeeze back up the inside. But Clayton Edmonds trying to ease up to the back of Ruben Bray on bike 1212, but this is a great battle here. So bike number 76, Charlie Huntingford, all over the back, coming through the section of track that's a bit tedious, setting the bike up, trying to get the power down as a square up towards the hairpin section of track there. So a bit of a banking through there helps the riders get through the corner, but gathers some water in the middle, trying to miss the puddle as they go through turn number 8 on the circuit and through the right hander into the left before they hit the back straight before the infield section of track. But we're on to the final lap of the race. It's the final lap of the race. Mason Foster is taking commanding positions of this race so far, and of course the championship, aiming for his 11th win of the season. Puts his outside foot off the foot peg, maybe just trying to stabilise the bike ever so slightly, but he's got a 9.2 second advantage over Finn Werity, and Warren Brady is on course for his first win, first podium of the season, Chris.
Yeah, that's a good spot actually, as we have just a couple of laps to go, as Mason Foster coming through the right-hander and up to the 2 hairpins. Being told that this actually is the final lap, so just a little bit of an issue with our timing screen in terms of the lap counter. But Mason Foster, world championship leader, started from pole position. 10 wins coming into this weekend, make that 11 wins as the checkered flag waves. Mason Foster, his 11th win of the season. Finn Werity comes across to take the first podium for Finn Werity across the line for Finnan in second place. Fantastic result there. And in third place, Warwick Brady, first podium for him as well. So fantastic stuff. The first podium for both of them. That's the number 62 of Ethan Sparks, who's gone down from 9th place. What a real shame that was. Ruben Bray, across the line we had a drag race there. Now that was between the likes of McCartney, Huntingford and Marshall. There was no changes between the trio. They finished as they were, so it was Bray in 4th, Edmonds 5th, McCartney 6th, Huntingford 7th, Marshall 8th, Harris 9th. This is Ethan Sparks, who is sadly tumbling down the order. Ethan Sparks is going to be classified in 10th or 11th place, I believe, as I think that is Schofield across the line. It is, who finishes 10th, so it will be Ethan Sparks in 11th, Munson 12th, and Stevenson will be in 13th place.
Yeah, such a shame there from Ethan Sparks. Upset with what happened there on the final lap. But Mason Foster, Finn and Werty, Warwick Brady, great result there from Warwick Brady, showing absolute class there in the wet condition, picking up his first podium of the season on the number 99 bike there. But Finn and Werty, 5th in the championship, 2nd spot in the race, and also his first podium of the season. So two riders there taking their first podium of the year, which is great for their confidence going ahead for the rest of the weekend. As we're watching Ethan Sparks, apologies, trudging back to the pits there, but thankfully he is up and he is okay. So next up we've got some great action from the Pit Bike 140 and Moto team race, so they will be making their way out onto the circuit in a few moments time.
Well, that's a real shame, you know, for Ethan Sparks there. He's second in the championship. He will drop down the order, so that's a real shame for him. I believe, in fact, even some of the guys towards the front of the championship are struggling there. So changes, and we'll pick that up as we go into tomorrow in the AC40 Pro. No such changes at the front though. Mason Foster leading, takes his 11th win of the season. Finn and Werty and Warwick Brady on the podium for the first time. So fantastic stuff from those two.
But before we get ahead of the Pit Bike 140, we're going to have a little quick look at a lap of the track.
Hello, this is Jay King on the Pit Bike Round 140, doing a lap of Lydd in Kent. So here we are now exiting the final corner onto the start and finish straight, over the curbs, down to third, into the first right, flick it to left, aim for the curbs on the way out, just clipping that one, up into fourth, back down to third again for the next fast chicane. Hold it tight, once again, aim onto the curbs on the way out and then drift it out for this fast right-hander. All the way out, once again, aiming for the curb on the way out, feel the bike low light over the jump and just over the jump down into third for the next right. Flick over left, try and hold it as tight as possible so you can get as much power onto the back straight. Down to the back straight. I use the curb on the outside as the braking marker for this very fast last corner. Miss the garden feature on the inside and back across the line, and that's a lap of Lydd.
Great insight there from Jamie King, a lap of Lydd here in Kent. You're watching the 2019 FAB-Racing British Mini Bikes Championship, and we've got some great racing ahead of the rest of the weekend. We've had 3 races down and there's 6 more to go, and we've got the Pit Bike 140s lining up on the grid, and it's going to be Harvey Clowridge taking pole position 2 seconds ahead of championship leader Jamie King on bike 76. Robert Cox in third spot on the grid ahead of Will Howarth. Simon Clowes, the Moto team riders, on 4th and 5th on the grid. Sean Whittaker next up in 6th ahead of Callum Wybrow in 7th spot ahead of Vince Bailey on bike 369. Jason Pugh is next up in 9th position on the grid ahead of Jack Andrews on bike 114, and next up is Daniel Gilbert on bike number 9, and running out the runners and riders for the start of the Pit Bike 140s who qualified earlier on today is Alistair Kinnaird.
Thank you very much, Liam. Well, there you can see to the left of your picture, that is Harvey Clowridge on the number 16. And to the right, championship leader Jay King, who we rode on board with not long ago. Here we go then for the start of the race for the Pit Bike 140s and motor teams. And they're off, and are we going to have a change of lead in towards the first chicane, side by side. The 2 riders on the front row, Clowridge and King, going head to head there, but it was Clowridge who came out on top good respect shown between the pair. King has to drop in to second place. I think that's Robert Cox who is in third place as they head down to the hairpin for the first time. There was so much going on between the leaders, it was hard to know what was going on behind, but what we can say is that there was no issues for anyone. All riders up on the bikes, which is good to see. No yellow flags, and we have a race underway. 12 laps it is, as ever, for the Pit Bike 140s and Moto teams. 2 classes in 1. It's Claridge from King on this opening lap. There you can see the number 5, which is Alistair Kennard, who started right on the back row. Clearly has made some places. So it's Claridge, King, Howarth, Cox, Clowes, Whittaker, Wybrow, then it's Pugh, Gilbert, Kinnaird, Andrews and Bailey.
Yeah, so some great racing there as they splashed through the puddles at the start of lap number 2. But look at the lead that Claridge has ahead of King, showing his prowess in the wet conditions at the moment, really taking like it to a duck to water at the moment, over the crest of the hill and to the right-hander, avoiding the puddle as they can. But look, it's Jamie King still in second spot. Will Howarth in third. He's on the Moto team bike, so he picked up a race win back at Tattershall, taking the first race win of a Moto team bike so far this season. So he's definitely giving the Pit Bike 140 riders something to think about so far in this early stages of the race. But Claridge, the British Talent Cup rider, is racing so far in 2019. We've found out he will be continuing on into 2020. Loves coming back to Coolfab, his roots so far in his career, and he just likes doing it for a bit of fun and of course picking up some well-earned podium positions. Still hasn't won a race so far this season, but he's well ahead of Jamie King by a second, chasing that first win of the season. But it's only a second. Jamie King can still pull it back. He is the Pit Bike 140 champion multiple times, second in the championship last year, championship leader so far this year. But running down the order behind the top 3 is Robert Cox in fourth, ahead of Simon Clowes, the Moto team championship leader on bike 133. Sean Whittaker is next up in 6th, ahead of Callum Wybrow on bike number 67. Daniel Gilbert on bike number 9 in 8th place, ahead of Jason Pugh in 9th spot on bike number 8. Alistair Kinnaird rounds out the top 10 on bike number 5, ahead of Vince Bailey and Jack Andrews.
Yeah, this is the battles going on further down between the likes of Kinnaird there. And we've got someone down at the final corner. Now, who was that that's gone off? Is that, let's see who's tumbling down the order. Is that Robert Cox? I think that might have come off there at the final corner on the number 29. Robert Cox, sadly, falling down the order, will drop all the way to 12th and last place. So a real shame for Robert Cox, who started from third place.
A bit of a
Robert
moment
Cox
there
now,
from
a lot
Harvey
of work to do.
Yeah, Harvey Claridge had a bit of a moment coming onto the back straight. That with Jamie King seeing that'll give him a bit of an opportunity to try and close the gap on to Claridge, and maybe thinking that Claridge is pushing very hard. He's using all the track as they come on to the home straight, taking off another lap. 8 laps remaining. Claridge from King, the gap has come down from 1.1 seconds, it's now down to 0.7 of a second, as we have a new fastest lap of the race from Jamie King at 48.1. Chris, this looks like it could be shaping up between Claridge and King.
Yeah, well, it was all about that on the first lap, wasn't it? And that's going to continue. King knows he has a lot of time to make this move, and slowly he's chipping away at Claridge's lead. Now this is Jason Pugh ahead of Vince Bailey that we are looking at as they come down towards the second chicane. And there you can see on the light blue bike, that is Jason Pugh. Vince Bailey behind. They're disputing 8th place at the moment. 2 riders on the Moto team bikes. King has gone down. Well, Jamie King, the championship leader, has gone down, is trying to get the bike going again, but this is an absolute disaster. This is great news for Claridge. Claridge no longer under any pressure, and it looks like Jamie King is struggling to get going. Gets going eventually, but will drop down to at least 6th place, if not 8th place, as 2 more riders go by there. So disaster for Jamie King, having just set the fastest lap, closing the lead to Claridge, championship leader, down on the deck.
Yeah, such a shame for Jay King there, but he will still be the championship leader, hopefully coming out of this race. So the person that gave us a bit of an insight into a lap around this Lydd circuit, slipping off it, a corner that seems to be very treacherous. We've seen a lot of incidents as they come on towards the back straight so far today, but does Claridge know we've got another rider down?
Someone else
that
is
looks
down.
like
Vince Bailey, I think
Vince
that is.
Bailey, yes, you're right there, Chris. It's Vince Bailey's gone down at the chicane. Thankfully, he is back up and he is okay. So we're seeing a lot of riders slip off in the Pit Bike 140 and Moto Team race. It's just showing that the track is still very slippery, even though we have heard in the dry that does have a lot of grip on it. So he's trying to get the bike started again. Will he get it started? Puts the visor down, trying to flick it up into gear. It doesn't look like it's one to move, but he's got it running, so that's good there from Robert Cox. Apologies, Vince Bailey, who's back up into the race for, well, what is only 6 laps remaining. But out front, it's still Harvey Clouds chasing his first win of the season on bike number 16. He's got a big gap, 8.9 seconds ahead of Will Howarth. Further down the order, Jamie King has just made a move on Jack Andrews, so after slipping off a lap ago, he's now up to 8th position. More moves going on from Jamie King. Can he make any more positions ahead of before the end of the race? Jamie King ahead of Jack Andrews, so 8th and 9th spot. This is Harvey Clouds. We've got on screen now your race leader is just lapping some of the back markers. We've got Jack Andrews just moving out of the way. Next up for him to lap is Jamie King, so that won't be too great for Jamie King if he sees Harvey Clouds come through him, especially after he came off a couple of laps ago.
That's if Claridge can catch him, because Jamie King was quickest. We're going to have 4 laps to go when Claridge crosses the line. He doesn't really need to be pushing at the moment. He's over 11 seconds clear from Will Howarth. He's over 20 seconds clear from 3rd place Simon Klaus. It's a one-man show at the moment in the PB 140 and Moto team class, because Claridge is just riding away from the rest of the field as if they are standing still. It is absolute dominant performance. You would not have thought that this is a rider who hasn't won a race so far this season. A lot of podiums for Claridge, 6 in total. He was 28 points back from King. He'll get 25 for the win. He'll really, really close that gap down to King going into tomorrow. So good stuff this from Claridge. Now Howarth is very comfortable in 2nd, Klaus likewise in 3rd. Sean Whittaker though is actually being caught, I think, by Callum Wybrow in 4th and 5th. So Sean Whittaker on the number 12, Callum Wybrow on the 67. There's less than a second between them. One thing we are going to see, which has nothing to do with positions, as we've mentioned already, Liam, is Jamie King's about to be lapped by Claridge. Yeah, it's not far from happening.
Not far at all, but we've just had Jamie King moving up into 7th spot, so he's now up to 7th, so he's picking up important points for the championship. But as you mentioned just there, he'll be closing him down in the championship. He's also closing him down to lap him, but we're looking at Sean Whittaker, who's getting chased down by Callum Wybrow, so there's a 7/10th position gap between the two, so the gap has gone slightly up there over the last lap there. So Callum Wybrow just losing out a little bit on Sean Whittaker, but this is the best battle on track at the moment. But talking about the Moto teams, we've got 2 of them on the podium at the moment. Will Howarth and Simon Klaus, 2nd and 3rd, just behind Harvey Clouds in the Pit Bike 140s. That will be the first time that's happened this year, which would be great for those riders in that championship with 2 laps remaining. So we've got, it looks like Sean Whittaker's coming under a bit of pressure. Callum Wybrow closing the gap just a little bit throughout this part of the lap as they make their way through the treacherous right-hander onto the back straight. Whittaker looks over his shoulder, sees Wybrow closing the gap ever so slightly. This is Simon Klaus coming across the start finish line in a safe but certain 3rd spot.
Someone's off, I think. We've got someone trying to get the bike going again. I just had a look out the window. It's at the first chicane. Now, who was that? That's is that Pugh? That's
looks like he's
trying to get going. There, you can see. Yeah, there's one of the riders there trying to get going again. I think that is the number 8 of Jason Pugh, who had gone down somewhere. Well, that's put Jay King up into 7th as we go on to the final lap of the race. Claridge absolutely dominating. There you can see Claridge out front, just coming through the first chicane here, and no one in sight. He's got an absolutely huge advantage over the rest of the field. Will Howarth and Simon Klaus, both Moto team riders. Is actually Simon Klaus who is leading Will Howarth in that championship, but Will Howarth 2nd in that championship, leading Simon Klaus on track. But Harvey Claridge yet to win a race this season. 6 podiums for him, but he is about to take his first victory of 2019. Round the final corner, Harvey Claridge comes out the final corner and down the straight and takes a win for the first time in 2019. It's been a long time coming, but that is a hugely deserved victory by Harvey Claridge, and he will argue if Jay King stayed on his bike, he would have won that race anyway. So Harvey Claridge, brilliant performance from him. Now we wait to see what the gap is, and here come second place. Is it across the line? Yes, there's Will Howarth, 21 seconds. That is the gap between Claridge and Howarth. Fantastic stuff. Simon Clowes will be in third place and second in the moto team class behind Will Howarth.
Great ride there from Claridge, Howarth and Clowes, your top 3. Sean Whittaker, we're still waiting to come across the line in 4th spot. Look at Harvey Claridge, they're absolutely bossing the race, jumping up and down, celebrating like no tomorrow from your youngster there on bike number 16. So just give you a run through all of the runners and riders. Claridge first, his first win of the season, 7th podium of the year, ahead of Will Howarth. Simon Clowes in 3rd spot, Sean Whittaker next up in 12th. And 4th spot on bike number 12, ahead of Callum Wybrow. And 5th, Jamie King recovered to 6th after he crashed out of the race a little bit early on. So that is going to be a gap of a much diminished championship lead from Jamie King. It's going to be down to 13 points between King and Claridge in the championship. Daniel Gilbert in 7th ahead of Jack Andrews. Alistair Kinnaird in 9th. We've got Vince Bailey running out your top 10. They were the only finishers of the race. Jason Pugh and Robert Cox unfortunately just missing out on a finish. So we've had 4 races down. We've got 5 more to go. We've got the mini GP70s, the Junior LC40 Elite race number 1 coming up next. There's going to be Senior Mini Motos, Mini GP50s and Extreme 200s, followed by the Sidecars. Will be rounding out your runners and riders for the last race of the day. So you're listening to Cool Fab Racing British Mini Bikes Championship 2019, and we're going to be getting some LC40 Elites out next. It's a championship battle between Johnny Garness and Mason Foster, 57 against 88. They've been giving us a lot of action throughout the season, and it's Johnny Garness has been picking up 11 wins, but Mason Foster has managed to pick up just 1 at the moment. So we've got some great racing action on the way. The rain is still coming down. It's keeping the track very wet, but we know that these young riders can still provide some great riding action. You're listening to 2019 Cool Fab Racing British Mini Bike Championship, round number 5 here at Lydd in Kent, and we've got another guest in the studio. We had him in a little bit earlier on in the season back at Red Lodge, round number 2, and thankfully, I'm glad to say, you're standing up this time. Yeah, so Finn Smart, welcome back to the paddock. It's your first round back, and just explain to the people that don't know why you were missing from the last few rounds.
Because it landed out, I broke my leg when I crashed.
Yeah, unfortunately it was a horrible incident. I remember you coming up to the commentary box commentating on a few races in a wheelchair, and we're having a great time. I don't know if you preferred actually commentating or actually racing, so you got to let us know. What do you prefer doing now?
Racing.
So how is your first round back? How have you been performing so far? How are you feeling?
I was doing alright in the dry yesterday and getting my confidence back, but just a bit difficult in the wet today.
So in the wet, what is the biggest difference between the dry and the wet? Is the track conditions out there a lot slippery compared to the wet? Is there still quite a bit of grip out there between the dry and wet conditions? Yeah, so we believe we're getting the race start for the LC40 Elites. We'll come back to Finn in a very short space of time, but we've got a great battle for the championship. We've got Johnny Garness lining up on pole position, and we've got Mason Foster, his championship rival, just behind him. But as the riders line up on the grid, last moments of preparation, so we might have Finn coming in for a bit of preparation, a bit of commentary as well. But as the riders line up on the grid, there seems to be shoulder shrugging, not sure what's going on here, delayed start possibly, but the riders aren't too fussed about that at the moment. So we've got some action going on. Cameron Sewell will be starting in 4th spot, his best grid of the position here. So Finn, thanks for joining us for the LC40 Elites. The race is about to get up. As you can hear, the revs are absolutely arriving. We've got some marshals running because they don't want to see any part of this start. Was a delayed start or some riders creeping? And away they go. So we've got a great start from Johnny Garnes. Mason Foster slips back. Seems to be a little bit of confusion. We've got Josh Bannister in the pits. So he had some issues earlier on in the session. So he's missing the start of this race as they head down towards the second chicane. It's going to be Garnes leading the way from Samuel Munson. Mason Foster still in third after a slow start from third spot in the grid. Cameron Sewell in fourth position. Ronnie Harris on bike number 66. But it's Johnny Garnes, your championship leader, trying to get his 12th win of the season in these very wet and damp conditions. Finn, have you ever raced against Johnny and Mason? What takes them over? What is the difference between the two?
Johnny's very aggressive in the riding, and he goes for everything. He goes for every move that is there. He doesn't hold back. Whereas Mason's style is more, he's really fast, but he's not as aggressive. He likes to be out front, and he's really, really fast when he's out front.
Yeah, they're both incredibly fast when they've got a good bit of track in front of them. But as we can see them coming across the line for the end of lap number 1, Johnny Garnes on bike 57 has a 1.2 second advantage ahead of Samuel Munson. Mason Foster, second position in the championship, number 88 and third spot ahead of Cameron Sills, putting in a great performance. We've got a yellow flag out somewhere in the circuit. We just saw that off the camera there. So we've got Ronnie Harris in fifth spot ahead of Ruben Bray on bike number 1212 in sixth place. Finn Wedity on bike number 11 in seventh. Warwick Brady next up, who gained his first podium position of the season in the AC40 Pros a little bit earlier on in the day. If you haven't seen that, watch it. It was a great ride there by Warwick Brady. Clayton Edmonds in ninth place ahead of Greg Marshall. Holly Harris in 11th. Charlie Huntingford in 12th. And running out your runners and riders starting from pit lane, that was Josh Bannister. But Cameron Sewell in fourth place there is looking all over the back of Mason Foster. Finn, do we feel like we can see Cameron maybe pick up his first podium of the season?
Maybe. He looked like he was really on the back of Mason Foster there. He was right into him in the infield section.
Yeah, he absolutely was. He was showing Mason Foster possibly a little bit look up the inside, but Johnny Garnes, we've got so that will be the earlier on yellow flag. That was Josh Bannister, possibly a bike issue for Josh Bannister. Horrible time in the LC40 Elite so far today, but look at this gap from Johnny Garnes. He's finding such great speed that no one else can find. He was nearly 2 seconds faster at one point in qualifying earlier on in the day, so he seems to be getting at the blocks and finding grip where no one else can at this early stage of the race. On the brakes into the right-hander, looking over his shoulder to see where everyone else is through the left. Once again looking over to see where Munson, Foster and Sewell are. He has to know that he's got over a 3-second advantage as he comes through the final corner. We'll be starting the next lap. Only 5 laps remaining for Johnny Garnes. Can he hold it for a 12th win of the season? The bike's moving on the way into the chicane, but looking back to second place. Who's in second? Is it Munson? Is it Foster? It's Munson so far, but Mason Foster's looking over the place through the puddles, up the inside into the next chicane. Will it be Foster? Munson still holding it. These two have been at it, hammer and tongs throughout the 2019 season in both the AC40 Pros and the LC40 Elites. Finn, can we see Mason Foster find a way past, or do you feel like Munson can still hold him off?
Munson looks like he's happy in second at the moment. He looks like he's still. He doesn't look like he's under any threat from Mason Foster at the moment.
Oh, a bit of a moment there from Munson as he come onto the back straight. How treacherous is that corner before the back straight, especially in the wet?
Really treacherous because you're coming out of there leant over but on full throttle, so rear can just come out from you at any point.
So the rear tyres are spinning up constantly. It's very, very impressive that you managed to hold it through that section of track. But look at this, it's a great battle for second position as Mason Foster tries to look up the inside of Munson. Through the chicane they go. They will be clashing through the puddles once again. Look at Foster, he gets a great run through the chicane up towards the second one. Up the inside, we've got Foster up into second position. Oh, he's down! Mason Foster's out of the race. He's gone down in front of Munson. Again, that is the second weekend in a row that's happened between Munson and Foster, but he's up, he's okay. As soon as he gets into second, he slips off in front of Munson. That means Munson is in second, Sewell is in third, Ronnie Harris in fourth spot, but we've got Foster back into the lead of the race. Finn, what happened there? Was he just push a little bit too hard, or did he have too much lean angle?
He looked like when he came past Samuel Munson, he just braked a little bit too late into the left-hander, the right-hander I mean, so into the left-hander he just didn't have the grip going into it.
It's a very treacherous corner indeed, but from right to left he's lost out, but he's still back in the race, so he's picking up some important points. But look at this is Cameron Sewell, stands out on bike 100, the Dayglow yellow with some cameo appearance on it as well. He's now chasing down Munson. Actually, he's on board for his first podium of the season in the LC40 Elite class, but we've also got Ronnie Harris just behind the top three there. Back in fifth spot is Ruben Bray. We've got Finn and Werity in sixth place ahead of Warwick Brady. It looks like Mason Foster's coming across the line in eighth, so he's just behind fifth, sixth and seventh, so he could still get some important points. Clayton Edmonds of bike 146 back in ninth place ahead of Greg Marshall. Holly Harris is still in 12th. Charlie Huntingford of bike number 76 in 12th spot, and our only retirement so far of the race is Josh Baxter. As I say that, we've got number 19, that's Greg Marshall, pulled off to the edge of the circuit just before the end of the lap. Not quite sure what's happened there to Greg Marshall, but thankfully he's up and he's okay, but they're just having a wee look at the bike, so fingers crossed he can get back into the race. Finn, does the electrics, does the motor get quite a lot of water in the system, so it shuts the bike down quite a lot?
I think I remember the mini motors being quite iffy in the wet.
So yeah, they're very iffy indeed, but that's second, third and fourth. Munson, Sewell and Harris. There's all 2 laps remaining. Finn, who do you think is going to take second and third?
To be honest, I think Cameron Sewell is going to take second in the end, but Samuel Munson's going to hold out for most of the race, so I think he'll probably take third.
So you don't see Ronnie Harris taking a podium position, but that's what we love, the LC40 Elite class. Anything can happen, and it usually does. That's another rider that's out. Or was that number 19? Yes, it's a number 19 of Greg Marshall, so they're just walking off the circuit. But Sewell is still holding third, looking all over the back of Munson as they head on towards the back, straight and towards the right-hander. They're nearly 9 seconds back from Johnny Garness, bike number 57, who's going to be coming across start finish line any moment now to start his final lap. But we're looking at the battle for second. That is Munson, Sewell, Harris, second, third and fourth. Can we see Sewell make a move in Munson? Can we see Munson maybe hold off Sewell, or will it be Ronnie Harris who makes a move on Munson and Sewell? We can only see on the final lap of this race. But Finn, what a ride here by Johnny Garness, your championship leader, leading the race by 10 seconds.
He's miles ahead. He's got a lap time that's 2 seconds.
So yeah, Johnny Garness is miles ahead of everyone. Number 57 coming through the left-hander here. Yep, two corners to go for Johnny Garness. So he's onto the back straight. So this is going to be into the final few corners, into the hairpin, right into left. Johnny Garness nearly getting tripped over by a back marker there so hard. That's Charlie Huntingford who's trying to get past there, but he's okay at the moment. But further back, Munson still leads Sewell, still leads Harris for second, third and fourth. But through the final corner, Johnny Garness comes across start finish line now to take his 12th win of the season. Johnny Garness stamps his authority on the LC40 Elite class. But is it the battle for second we need to be looking at coming through the final corner? Will it be Munson, Sewell, or is Munson in second? Sewell takes his second, or first I should say, podium of the season, and then it's going to be Ronnie Harris in fourth spot. And fifth we're expecting Ruben Bray, or will it be the possibility of Mason Foster picking up another position? But as we come across the line any moment now, the bike 1-1, is it going to be Bray? Yes it is. Ruben Bray takes a top 5 position. Finn and Werity in sixth spot there. We've got Johnny Garness pulling off the edge of the circuit, just having a bit of a chat there with Clayton Edmonds, I believe, as they nearly got Clayton Edmonds as they nearly got tangled up in the final lap of the race. Yeah, it looks like a bit of an argument between the first and, well, the ninth place there. So they're all having a bit of an argument, a bit of a kerfuffle going on. Munson gets involved in it. Johnny Garness has stopped, so I think he was just maybe trying to get a push back to the pits. So Finn, great wee race there from Johnny Garness, and as we can see him trying to start his bike. Is it a big issue for these LC40 Elite bikes to break down on the final couple of laps of a race?
I think in the wet these bikes are just, they get clogged up with the water a lot, and you have to just tip the water out a lot because they just get clogged up.
Yeah, so thankfully Johnny Garness did have his bike troubles at the end of the race. So Johnny Garness takes his 12th win of the season ahead of Samuel Munson. Cameron Sewell on bike 100 picks up his first podium of the year in third spot. Ronnie Harris on bike number 66 next up in fourth. Ruben Bray in fifth ahead of Finn and Werity. Warwick Brady next up, and of course we had Mason Foster, who just moved into second place, slip off at the second chicane, and he only ended up in 10th spot. So Finn, we've got you out a little bit later on today, and of course it's been great to have you back. Round number 5 of the weekend here from Lydd. So this is the 2019 FAB-Racing British Mini Bikes Championship, and we've got Finn Smart in the studio just help me out with a little bit of commentary in the box here, and we've got the senior mini motos out next. But Finn, how is the leg doing now? Is it back to full fitness, or have you still got a bit of recovery time left?
My leg's fully back, but it's just my ankle at the moment. I've not got as much stability in my ankle, and the muscles around the back of my calf are not as strong at the moment.
So what's the reception been like to having you back? Has everyone missed you?
I don't know.
They probably have done, but just not come up and said it yet. But out there on the circuit, how is the Lydd circuit compared to some of the other tracks we've got in the calendar? Is it one of your favourites?
It is definitely one of my favourites. It's one of the most sweeping tracks, and it's got long straights and fast corners rather than tight and twisty bits like at Tattershall.
Yeah, Tattershall, so thankfully missed out on that one, but we've got Tattershall in a few weeks' time, round number 8, the final round of the season. So this weekend, what's your hopes? Is it just a building weekend, or are you out there aiming for some good results?
Just a building weekend this weekend, and then at Wilton Mill I'm going to try and get some results again and back in where I should be.
So final question, where are you looking to finish? What's the biggest aim for the weekend? Just a learning weekend?
Just to learn, just to get back used to the bike again and not be last.
Finn, thanks very much for joining us in the commentary box. It's been an absolute pleasure, and it's great to see you standing up this time. So thanks very much for popping up once again, and enjoy the rest of your weekend.
Thank you.
So that was great to hear from Finn Smart. He'll be out a little bit later on in the day, and of course keep an eye on him throughout the rest of the weekend. Once again, this is the 2019 FAB-Racing British Mini Bikes Championship, and we've got the senior mini motos heading out for their first race of the day. So this is going to be race number 6 on the booking system. So we've got 3 more races after this: the Mini GP50s, Extreme 200s, and the Sidecars. All their first races coming up before the end of the day, and it should be a fantastic race. We're speaking to Bernie Hook a little bit earlier on in the weekend, and his bike that he's running was actually built in this part of the UK, just a few miles down the road in Lydd in Kent. So there's only 14 bikes actually been built, and Josh Bannister, who was racing in the LC40 Elites, was the first of those prototypes to be made. So the Evo bikes, which you will be seeing Bernie Hook of course racing, and built by series regular Andy Whedon. So we've got Josh Birkin on pole position, setting his first pole position of the year ahead of Bernie Hook. We've got Simon Huntingford on bike number 47. He'll be going off at 3rd spot on the grid. Starting alongside him will be Craig Ashall on bike number 81. Aston Dean on bike 137 is next up. Then we've got on bike number 21 Adam Ambrose. Nick Bennett in 7th spot on bike number 711. And then Neil Skinner on bike number 13, unlucky for some, is and bike number on 8th spot on the grid. So it's the senior mini motos. We've got some great action lining up ahead of us. We can see some fantastic action from these bikes as we've got some rain falling down on the circuit. But we're unfortunately missing out on Matt Birkin. So our producer is shouting in my ear and saying they can't wait for this and saying funny things. So we've got the start of the grid already.
Right, here we go then. Bernie Hook and Birkin on the front row, and it looks to be Bernie Hook, I think, who's going to lead us in towards the first corner for the first time. Great start there from Bernie Hook as we come down to the second chicane here. We're side by side for second place. That looks like Birkin and Huntingford, I think it was, as they tip their way through the second chicane, and now down towards the hairpin we go for the first time. Around the hairpin and up towards the next chicane. A fantastic start from our pole sitter there as we come through the right-hander, now into the left, and we've got this very quick right-hander which is catching lots of people out today. There you can see Bernie Hook leading the way at the moment from Josh Birkin, who was in second place. The hairpins in use, of course, for the mini motos. Come through the left, and then it'll be into the double right-hander, which will take us on to the start-finish straight for the first time of asking. That is lap number 1 completed. 7 laps in this one. It's slightly shorter for the mini motos. It's Hook from Birking, Will Howarth, then it is Huntingford, Ashall, Bennett, Ambrose, Dean and Neil Skinner.
Look at Will Howarth there in third spot. It looks like he's got a raincoat on. He's not even put on one of those sort of
I don't blame
plastic overalls. Yeah, it's quite cold out there as well today, but have we got a change for Lydd? No, Josh Birkin just slots in behind Bernie Hook for the moment, but he's got a great run through the hairpin. He looks over his shoulder and just lets Will Howarth into second place, so not quite sure what's happening there from Josh Birkin, who's put himself in a great position for a fantastic result so far this weekend. So Bernie Hook leads it. Birkin is now back into third spot. Will Howarth just in front of them, but Hook all over the back of Birkin apologies about that. Birkin all over the back of Howarth as he head into the hairpin section of track. This section getting used for the mini motos because the mini motos don't have high enough gearing, but we've got someone stopped at the edge of the circuit. Who's that? It looks like the bike is stopped. He's trying to get it started once again, but we're not quite sure who that is at the moment. We've got someone else that's off on a red bike at the moment. They're further back, so we'll be keeping an eye on who that could be. Not too sure who that is.
I think
we'll be back
have a look. It'll be
the top three, so it's going to be Will Howarth, Bernie Hook. So we've got a change of lead. Will Howarth is now in the lead of the race. Bernie Hook on bike zero back into second, and Josh Birkin in third. But looking back at the top three, Bernie Hook still leads the way ahead of Howarth and Josh Birkin as they head into the second half of the third lap.
Yeah, Huntingford and Bennett, the two riders that are in trouble, I'm afraid. Well, it's Howarth, Hook and Birkin, very, very close together at the moment. These three riders, 4 wins apiece in the championship. So who is going to be the first one to take the 5th win of the season as they tip their way now into the left-hand hairpin? And there goes Hook. Is that down the inside? No, I think that's Will Howarth, isn't it? Down the inside. And Will Howarth then it is who's going to lead as we come round to complete lap number 3. So Howarth leading the way from Bernie Hook. Then it is Josh Birkin now down into 3rd place. Craig Ashall is 4th place and is some 5.6 seconds back from the lead trio, who were split by just half a second. Adam Ambrose is 5th, Aston Dean 6th place. As we come down to the long hairpin for lap number 4, 3.5 laps remaining. These races go very, very quickly in the mini moto classes, just 7 lap races, and well, I think that is Nick Bennett or Simon Huntingford, I think, calling it a day, unfortunately. Are we going to see a challenge for 2nd place? Here comes Josh Birkin down the inside of Bernie Hook.
Oh, that was close.
Well, yeah, just got out of it, I think, in enough time to avoid an incident there, Lydd.
Yes, it was close between the two. Oh, we've got Bernie Hook letting Birkin past. Don't know if he's got an issue with his bike or just thought, you know what, if you really want 2nd place that badly, you can have it. I just don't want to be taken out of this. But Howarth is away and running from the 2nd and 3rd places of Birkin and Hook. Craig Ashall in 4th place. Adam Ambrose 5th. We've got Aston Dean 6th. Andy Whedon in 7th spot. Neil Skinner in 8th. And Simon Huntingford and Nick Bennett are both out of the race as they've had to carry their bikes back to the pitch. But Birkin, it looks like he's making some inroads into Howarth as we head around the rest of this lap. Howarth is trying to get away, but Birkin has shown great pace in the wet conditions this weekend. He is your pole sitter, so Josh Birkin hasn't won a race so far this season. His brother Matt, who has won 4, is not here this weekend, unfortunately, so not sure where Matt Birkin is, but he seems to be picking up his pace from Josh. So Josh is hunting down Will Howarth as he head into the hairpins in the middle section of the circuit before the end of the lap. There's only going to be 2 laps remaining at the end of this one, Chris.
Yeah, good correction. Josh Birkin, just the 1 podium for him so far this season, and that's exactly why Bernie Hook would have let him by. I think that's Nick Bennett that is walking back to pit lane. We saw Simon Huntingford doing the same a little bit earlier as well. But Bernie Hook, exactly why he would have allowed Josh Birkin through, knows that Birkin could have gone and closed down Will Howarth. I think when Bernie Hook did that, though, he was probably hoping that Josh would have brought him along with him, but that's not been the case. Josh Birkin has really upped the pace of this race, and Will Howarth, I tell you what, is responding.
Yes, yes.
The gap is coming down. I think Howarth has perhaps been given the hurry up and is doing just that with 1.5 laps to go.
Yeah, it's a great point you make there about Hook letting Birkin past. Thinking if I can't pass and catch him, maybe you can, because looking at the championship, there's only 64 points between Hook and Howarth, but 64 points is still. So even though there's a big gap in between them, it still means if Birkin can beat Howarth, then less points come off the championship. So Howarth is still leading the way with 1 lap remaining. So the final lap of the race, can Josh Birkin do anything about your race leader? Can Hook still hold on to 3rd spot in the race so far? Craig Ashall isn't close enough, so it looks like Hook has that sewn up, barring a mistake on the final lap here. So Howarth up towards the hairpin, the far end of the circuit, in his raincoat. It's quite comical that he's got a raincoat on, the hood waving about in the wind. But Birkin is closing ever so slightly through the puddle to go towards the end of the race. It's Hook in 3rd, Ashall 4th, Ambrose 5th, Dane 6th, Whedon 7th, Skinner 8th, Huntingford 9th, and towards the hairpin to go. We know that Birkin is big on the brakes here. He's closing right up through this section of the track. We'll look up the inside. Birkin doesn't do it, but there's a back marker coming up. 2 more corners to go through the left into the right, but it looks like Howarth has it sewn up. Where's Birkin gone? He's dropped back ever so slightly through the final corner. It's Howarth over the start finish line to pick up his 5th win of the season. Howarth closes the championship down by 9 points to Hook. Birkin, that's Josh, in 2nd position. Bernie Hook comes across the line in 3rd spot to pick up another podium position, and then we're going to be waiting a little bit of time for Craig Ashall. So Bernie Hook dropped back to 13 seconds further back, but Chris, great race there from Will Howarth, and Josh Birkin showing a great turn of form in these wet conditions.
Yeah, great ride by Will Howarth. Was being closed down very quickly, and then Will Howarth went and pulled out the fastest lap on the last lap, 60.326 on that last lap. Josh Birkin, a real good turn of form, as Liam said here. That's just his 2nd podium of the season. Fantastic stuff. One to watch going into tomorrow, definitely. Bernie Hook rounds out the podium, the championship leader, of course, and it's Craig Ashall, Adam Ambrose, Aston Dean, Andy Whedon, Neil Skinner, Simon Huntingford, and Nick Bennett. So I believe we're going to be getting a guest in for the next race. So we will wait and see that. Liam will leave us and have a little bit of a deserved break. But next it's going to be the Mini GP50 class. We're getting towards the end of our programme now. Just 3 races to go. Mini GP50 will be next. Then it will be Extreme 200s will end with sidecars. But we are joined in the commentary box by Max Cook, of course, racing in the Red Bull Rookies and CV Moto 3 Junior World Championship this year. Back for the 2nd time this season in the FAB-Racing Championship. How does it feel to be back in FAB?
Now, obviously, it's really good. I'm here to support my brother James as well. He's in the Metric 70 class, and he's unfortunately crashed out the lead in the race as we saw, but. No, I'm really happy. Coming back to where I grew up here. This is like my childhood. Great to see, old friends again. And, I'm happy to be here again.
Yeah, I mean, it's been fantastic season for you as well, of course. Talk us through, the high points of your season so far. You've been racing in the Red Bull Rookies. You came very close to a podium finish at Assen. Of course, last season your best finish was 8th, 4th at Assen, and then last time out you got 3rd place at Saxonbury.
Nah, it's all coming together. I'm so happy with how my rookie championship's going for me right now. Getting closer to that win. I actually picked up my first podium in Saxonbury the other week, so I'm just so happy of how this is going this year, and I just look forward to see where the 2nd half of the season takes me.
I mean, you've been fighting for the wins quite a few occasions. I mean, even at the first round at Jerez, you were qualified up there in 8th place. For the first few laps, you had to get a ride through penalty because of a jump start, but you stayed out as long as you could and showed you could fight for the lead, and then you've done that on several occasions since.
Yes, I'm just so happy. All my hard work's paying off, so I look forward to see what happens.
We'll talk more about your season. Particularly, I want to ask you about Mugello, of course, which was a bit of a different experience. We'll speak about that. We'll get into the grid though for Mini GP50. It's Harrison Crosby and Carl Payne who are starting on the front row. Carter Brown and Ronnie Harris will be on row 2. Then it'll be Sullivan, Mounsey and Ryan Hitchcock on row 3. Alfie Davidson and Josh Bannister will be row 4. Thomas Gomez and Lucas Brown row 5. Harrison McKay and Ollie Horner row 6. And then Ben Jolliffe and Warwick Brady row number 7. Predictions ahead of this one, Max?
It's close to cool. It's wet, so obviously anything can happen here.
And mini GP50s in the wet, very tricky to ride?
Oh yeah, obviously these new kids are here on their first, I guess, geared bike, so everything's all new to them. So now we're just going to have to see what goes on.
Yeah, we will indeed. Well, there you can see the grid forming up. To the right of picture, you see the number 25. That is Carl Payne, Harrison Crosby to the left. This is Cool Fab Racing, round number 5, the Cool Fab Racing British Mini Bikes Championship, the Road to Moto GP, partner series of the British Superbike Championship. Thanks for tuning in and being with us here at Lydd. We are on the south coast of England. The weather should be good. It has been good this week, record-breaking in fact, but not today. Wet track, and it is going to be a good race. Mini GP50 about to get going for race number 1. To the right of screen, as we said, Carl Payne. To the left, Harrison Crosby. Get ready to go racing for the first time in Mini GP50 this weekend. Harrison Crosby is your championship leader, 4 wins and 10 podiums so far, but only 8 points ahead of Josh Bannister. Ryan Hitchcock, 3rd in the championship, just 17 points back. Josh Bannister is down and 8th on the grid, Hitchcock down in 6th, so things looking good for Harrison Crosby out front. Anything can happen though. Carl Payne, 4th in the championship, has a chance to close a gap to those top 3 today. Carl Payne, 6 podiums, no wins so far this season though. Can he go and take his first of the season? We'll certainly be hoping so. Carter Brown, 3rd place, fantastic qualifying from him, considering he is all the way down 18th of the championship. We got a little bit of a delay. We did get tips that Carter Brown would be one to watch this morning, actually, before qualifying, and Carter Brown definitely proving that was a case. When you were racing in these classes, Max, how nervous did you used to get on a wet track? Was that something that made you nervous, particularly at this experience, or did you always strive on that?
To be fair, I've always looked forward to all weather conditions. I've grown up in an indoor go-kart track, so I'm used to sliding around and whatnot, but it all depends on what your style is. I know Crosby's really good in the wet, so I expect some good things from him. I know Carter Brown, I've been watching him this weekend and I haven't really seen him, but we're going to have to see here.
Here we go, race start then, and it looked like Harrison Crosby was away there very, very quickly as they come through the first chicane. Now, is this a green flag lap? I think it is. Is it? Well, let's have a look as they come in towards the second chicane then for the first time. And looks like a good start from Harrison Crosby now as they come up towards the hairpin. They certainly are tiptoeing their way round on these wet conditions on the opening lap. Through the left-hander, over the dip, and into the right-hander we go. Left hairpin up next, and through the right. So it is a green flag lap, that is being confirmed. So it gives us another chance just to chat to Max. What's the key to going quick in the wet? What's your tips for young riders just coming through?
You just got to be smooth. That is it. You can't have any, I guess, aggressive moves or anything. And here, I think Lydd's been resurfaced actually. But no, I'm not sure the grip levels. I'm too scared to go out in the wet this today. But no, I'm interested to see how this race goes.
Yeah, well, of course, Max here to race, but no need to take the chance today, of course. Wet conditions, much better in a commentary box or watching from up here inside. Helping out James Cook, of course, his brother as well. Well, here we go. We didn't know that was a green flag lap, so apologies for that. We do not want to take any chances and assume it was. But it looks like we're going to go racing this time. Harrison Crosby to the left on pole position. To the right, Kyle Payne. Here we go, we're off away in racing then, and Carl Payne challenging for the lead straight away. Fantastic start, and Carl Payne goes straight into the lead. Has not had a race win so far this season. Goes straight ahead of our championship leader, Harrison Crosby, as they come up towards the second chicane for the first time. behind. It looks like everyone is settled into position nicely as we come down towards the hairpin. Overtaking opportunities down there for sure. Now you'll see through the left, over the crest, and then into the right-hander. Easy to get the bike out of shape into there. Third place is Carter Brown. Started third, stays in third at the moment. Carter Brown, 18th in the championship. You wouldn't think it so far, though, would you? Wet weather specialist, definitely, as they come down to the final corner for the first time. Fantastic start there from Kyle Payne, who slots into the race lead ahead of Harrison Crosby as they come across the line to complete the first lap. And Kyle Payne doing a great job. It looks like Harrison Crosby maybe back in the lead, though. Carter Brown in third place. And we have Sullivan Mounsey in fourth place, Ronnie Harris in fifth, Lucas Brown is sixth, and it's Josh Bannister in seventh, Ryan Hitchcock eighth, Ben Jolliffe in ninth, and Ollie Horner 10th. Nice and tidy start there, Max. I guess best, the thing to do in these conditions, stay on the bike in the early stages.
Yeah, of course. Your tyres are cold. I mean, even with warmers, as soon as you go out to the grid, and obviously we had this delay just now, so the tyres would have cooled down, so the kids playing it safe, no one's crashed as of yet. So now they're doing a good job, just getting into a rhythm, and yeah, I think Crosby's pulled a slight gap, half a second on our screens, so they come around again.
And do you think getting into that rhythm is even more essential in wet conditions than in dry conditions?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah. No
more words needed. Yeah, simple yes. We pick up Harrison Crosby in the race lead. 1.4 seconds clear already. Will be very happy when he has a quick look over his shoulder and sees that there is the look over the shoulder. And Harrison Crosby, well, there's a reason he leads the championship and has had 4 wins already this season. And there you can see quickly pulling away from Carl Payne in second place. He fourth in the standings at the moment. Plenty of podiums to these names as we look a little bit further down the field. Just trying to pick up who this is. That looks like Josh Bannister chasing Lucas Brown at the moment. And we have the number 43 of Ryan Hitchcock. We've already seen the Mini GP 70s, Max. We're into the 50s now. Would you say this is one of the harder tracks to overtake at, Lydd?
Oh yeah, for sure. I struggled a bit yesterday actually. The corners here are just so fast and flowing. There's not much heavy braking on this track, especially for the big bikes where they don't do the infield. So I think this track's pretty hard, especially in the wet too, because it's sort of all single line. You can't really, try an ambitious move. You see Josh Bannister actually does that here on our screens, which is really good stuff for the young kid.
Yeah, Josh Bannister diving down the inside there, and there is one of the, I guess, only overtaking opportunities, and did it very well.
Honestly, yeah, that was perfect. That was perfect.
Yeah, good stuff then from Bannister. That puts him up into sixth place, and Lucas Brown not very happy with something. Whether he's carrying a problem or not, I'm not entirely sure. But we saw Harrison Crosby blitz through our screens there. 2.4 seconds clear. Certainly, that is Lucas Brown slowing. Now has Ryan Hitchcock behind. And Ryan Hitchcock may try the same move he saw Josh Bannister do on the last lap. So Carl Payne is still second, 2.4 seconds back from Crosby, but this is Josh Bannister. Josh Bannister having just gone past Lucas Brown, who again is overtaken by Ryan Hitchcock. Looks like must have some sort of issue there, Max.
Maybe you can see he's just slowing down a little bit. It's like maybe his bike's under power. I'm not too sure, but he runs wide on that corner 2 laps in a row now, and as you see, he just got passed, which is not very good for Lucas Brown.
Yeah, so sadly, problems for Lucas Brown, and I guess the only good news for him is that the next bit of pressure is some 7 seconds behind, so he'll be able to just try and hold position now with Ben Jolliffe quite a few seconds back. But out front, Crosby slowly extending his lead. We are now looking at Ben Jolliffe against Ollie Horner, so this is actually going on behind Lucas Brown. It's the Mini GP 50 class, and Max, this is kind of titled as, Road to Moto GP, the Cool Fab series. We're partnered with BSB as well. Just tell us where these guys are in their careers now at this level for the viewers.
These
watching.
Guys are at the grassroots. Oh, we got Lucas Brown. Lucas Brown has crashed at the hairpin.
Right, so Lucas Brown has gone down, unfortunately. Was carrying issues anyway, and it looks like you can see just in the back of frame that Lucas Brown has just got the bike going again. Signs of frustration, I think, there for Lucas Brown. Oh, two riders down through the right-hander, and unfortunately could be out as well. Let's have a look. Bikes are coming up. That is the number 61 of Harrison McCain, I think. Is that Warwick Brady? That was the other rider. It was. So Warwick Brady and Harrison McKay unfortunately have gone down. And are they going to be going any further? Well, the visor of Harrison McKay has come off, so certainly Harrison's going no further, and Warwick Brady not going anywhere either. So that adds to the two riders who were already out. So unfortunately, 4 riders now out of this race. Huge shame there, and just being pushed to a little bit of safety. That's going to be a difficult evening now for them to try and get themselves reset and ready again for race 2 and 3 tomorrow. But we'll go back to the on-track action because it's getting close for 3rd place, and just on cue we've now picked that up. Carter Brown versus Ronnie Harris. Here it is on screen, and that looks like Sullivan Mounsey is closing in as well as they come up towards the hairpin. I guess now, Max, it's just a case, if you can't pass, just keep that pressure on and try and force a mistake.
Yeah, hopefully we can have an interesting last lap here. Obviously, Ronnie Harris right on the back of Carter Brown here. I know, I saw in qualifying actually Carter had a few crashes. I don't know if that was an issue or something, but obviously just keep your composure for the whole entire race. And then last lap's the time to pull the pin.
Yeah, it's much as a mental game, isn't it? The racing at this level, you just got to try and focus and not look behind. Is that the advice you'd often give to riders at this level?
Oh yeah, obviously it's just enjoying it here. You just gotta have fun. It's your weekend away. You're with your friends and stuff, and there's nothing really better for a kid to be riding a motorcycle on the weekend. I mean,
I think that's very well said, actually. Sometimes it's easy to forget that, isn't it? That we are here to enjoy ourselves, even if the weather is like this. So Harrison Crosby leading by 6 seconds. Carter Brown under serious pressure, though. Ronnie Harris is on the back of him. There you can see Ronnie Harris on the white bike. On the blue bike there, that is Carter Brown on the number 37. We only have 2 laps to go, so it will be 2 laps when Carter Brown crosses the line this time. Harrison Crosby, of course, our race leader, well up the road from this, but on the number 37 there on the blue bike, that is Carter Brown in 3rd place, disputing that position with Ronnie Harris as they come up towards the 2nd chicane. Where do you think the best opportunity is, Max? It's surely going to be down at that hairpin. We've seen there that couple of moves have already been made.
Yeah, that hairpin or second to last corner, you know, I've seen a couple moves there, but they just got to be careful on the exit.
Yeah, well, here we go back to the leader, Harrison Crosby. Super impressive performances so far, Max. I mean, 4 wins and 10 podiums so far for him this season. He's only 8 points clear, but controlling things very well out front.
No, he looks comfortable. You know, in the wet, he's just flying through, getting into a good rhythm. Amazing.
Oh, we've got someone down. Now, is that one of the riders we had in the battle for 3rd? That's Carter Brown. Well, Carter Brown, who we were following there on the blue bike in 3rd place, sadly has gone down, and we did mention that Carter Brown had a couple of issues in practice going down, and unfortunately those issues seem to have come back. Carter Brown out of the race, so that puts Ronnie Harris in 3rd, but Sullivan Mounsey not too far behind. But we are on the final lap of the race, and the win, he looks like he's already celebrating. Harrison Crosby, just 1 corner to go through the right-hander, and Harrison Crosby is going to take his 5th win of the season to extend his championship lead. Harrison Crosby wins race number 1 here at Lydd. 2nd place, a few seconds behind this, we'll see the number 25, Carl Payne, will cross the line to finish in 2nd. Ronnie Harris should round out the podium, was under a little bit of pressure, but we'll see if Ronnie Harris was able to hold on. Let's see as they come across the line. Is this 3rd place? Oh, Sullivan Mounsey got it. Well, Sullivan Mounsey managed to get past Ronnie Harris, unless that's a timing issue, has not come through in 3rd place. So was there problems for Ronnie Harris somewhere on the on the final lap. There is a wave, and a very happy Harrison Crosby takes the win from Carl Payne, and Sullivan Mounsey third. Brilliant ride though from Harrison Crosby, Max.
It was amazing. We didn't really see much of him actually. He just left. So after the start from pole position or second, I think, and then yeah, it was great.
And Carl Payne second place, and Sullivan Mounsey looked like it all went off in the last lap there. Got third. Josh Bannister was fourth. Ryan Hitchcock was fifth. Ronnie Harris sixth. Ollie Horner seventh, and it was Ben Jolliffe, Carter Brown, Lucas Brown. Behind that, Warwick Brady, Harrison McKay, Alfie Davidson, and Thomas Gomez. Well, Max, thanks for joining us. Of course, hopefully we'll be seeing you on track tomorrow, as long as the weather stays good. You'll be racing tomorrow.
Nah, yeah, hopefully if it's dry, you'll see me in the pit bike 140 class tomorrow. I hope to have some good battles with Harvey Claridge, so nah, it should be good fun.
And 2 weeks, you're at Red Bull Ring for the next round of the Red Bull Rookies, of course.
Yeah, so I hope to carry on my good progress there and just see where it takes me.
Well, from everyone in the paddock, we will wish you the best of luck in that. You're the only British rider in that series and the Moto 3 World Junior Championship, so I guess on behalf of the country, we're all rooting for you. Best of luck for the rest of your season. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, good stuff. Max Cook, get on, support him. He's racing Red Bull Rookies, Moto 3 World Junior Championship as well. But he'll leave us now, and he will be replaced by Liam Hodgins, unfortunately. Liam's back, sadly.
Fortunately, sadly, that's unfair on me. It's only gone 10 minutes.
wasn't long enough, but I'll give the grid to Liam, who will run you through the next class, which will be Extreme 200s.
Yes, thanks very much, Chris. So it's going to be Elliot Pinson on bike number 76, who will be starting from pole position ahead of the number 70 of Joshua Watley. The European Talent Cup star is over here at Lydd in Kent, taking up his second position on the grid. There was a bit of an issue for him in qualifying, but thankfully he seems to be starting his race as we can see him heading out onto the track. Harvey Claridge, who picked up his first race win of the season in the Pit Big 140s a little bit earlier on in the day, will be starting from third spot. So once again, he had a bit of an issue during qualifying as well, but managed to get the bike restarted again. Jamie King will be further down the order, but in front of him it's going to be Oscar Pinson on bike number 94 on a 48.689. Taylor Lawrence on bike number 10 will be 5th place ahead of Jamie King on bike number 76. Then we've got Will Howarth on bike number 96 in 7th spot ahead of Richard Holmes Williams on 1, 2, 6 and 8th position on the grid. Next up is going to be Felix Hearn on bike 22. Then Brandon Perrell, who had a bit of an off at the end of qualifying earlier on in the day at the final turn, just slipping off a wet patch of tarmac. On bike 146, he'll be rounding at the top 10 ahead of Cam Harris. On bike number 20, he'll be the last of your runners and riders. So coming in to this round on the Extreme 200 Championship, we've got a great wee battle going on for the championship between some of the championship contenders. So it's going to be Richard Holmes Williams, 87 points ahead of Taylor Lawrence, and Brandon Perrell as your top 3 in the championship.
Well, there we go. There's the grid. Elliot Pinson, your pole sitter from Joshua Watley. Joshua Watley is to the right of picture, the right side of the grid as we look down at it. Elliot Pinson is to the left. 70 on the 76. Right, watch the lights. Here we go for Extreme 200, race number 1 from Lydd. We're off away in racing then, and that looked like a great start from Joshua Watley, who's going to squeeze Elliot Pinson and go into the race lead as they come round the first chicane for the first time. It's going to be Watley who leads. Oh, that Perrell's off again, but who's gone off with him? Unfortunately,
that's Lawrence and King.
Is that King that's gone off? It's King, yes, who's gone off with the number 10. Well, that's a real shame there. So the riders on row number 3 have both gone down, and that's the second off for Jay King today.
Oh, such a shame for Jay King and Taylor Lawrence. They've had a bit of a tangle coming through the chicane section at the start of the race. A very natural chicane that can catch out anyone, even the best of the riders. But at the front of the field, Elliot Pinson got a great start. So the top 2 have pulled a bit of a gap. So Elliot Pinson chasing down Josh Watley as they come across start finish line to complete lap number 1. It's Watley ahead of Pinson, and Oscar Pinson 2.1 seconds back from the other Pinson. So the Pinson second and third. third. Harvey Claridge has just dropped back one position from third to fourth position. A bit of a pincer movement there from second and third there. Fifth position is Will Howarth. Richard Holmes Williams in sixth spot. Felix Hearn moved up a few positions from his grid slot. He's now in seventh. Brandon Perrell from 10th in the grid is now eighth. Out of Cam Harris and Taylor Lawrence and Jay King seem to be back in the race. They're 10th and 11th after getting tangled up at the first corner. But look at Josh Watley. He might not have set pole position, but he's pulling away from Pinson at the head of the field, Chris.
He is indeed. To tell you what, the championship leader is really struggling in this class today. The rain has brought with it a real spanner in the works when we come to the championship order, but we'll focus on this race as it is, and it's Watley leading from Elliot Pinson. Oscar is then in third. Harvey Claridge is fourth. Will Howarth is fifth. Richard Holmes Williams is sixth place. We're actually looking at the battle behind Holmes Williams, which is in seventh place. That is Felix Hearn. There's Brandon Perrell, who we mistakenly thought was off at the first corner. See the similarities there as Cam Harris goes down the inside of Perrell. That's going to be a change for eighth place. Brilliant move that from Harris. It almost was an invitation there from Perrell as he looked over his shoulder for Harris then to dive down the inside. Fantastic riding anyway as they come down to the final corner, and you can see, we've got someone off at the final corner, and in no rush at all to get no rush at all to get back on the bike, and very, very frustrated Elliot Pinson out of third place, and he's going to drop all the way to last place.
That's such a shame from Elliot Pinson. Was putting Watley under some amount of pressure, but unfortunately probably pushing a little bit too hard to try and keep the pressure on Josh Watley in second spot there. So that's made Oscar Pinson move up into second ahead of Harvey Claridge, who are completing the podium at the moment. But look at Claridge, he's all over Pinson. That's Oscar Pinson through the fast right hander onto the back straight, a very tough corner. But look at Pinson, he just gets a great run onto the back straight, but we know how good Claridge is through the corners and on the brakes. He manages to catch it back up. The Extreme 200 bikes are very quick down the straight, but the Pit Bike 140s, which Claridge is riding on at the moment, just has that little bit of corner speed over the Extreme 200 bikes. So battle for second rages on, but at the front, Watley has been handed a 5.7 second advantage after Elliot Pinson went down. Holmes Williams is in fourth position, and then in fifth we have Will Howarth. So those two are battling for fourth and fifth. Felix Hearn has moved up to sixth. Cam Harris, after they got waved by Brandon Perrell, in seventh, but there was a bit of a moment there from Claridge is down. No, they're pushing too hard. Claridge is out of third spot. The British Talent Cup rider's back up. He's only lost a couple of positions there, so he could still potentially get a third spot. Chris, what happened there?
Well, he went through the puddle, didn't he? Going through the right hander on the inside of the apex. It just unsettled the bike enough and to do the damage through the left hander. Real shame that for Harvey Claridge. He was in third place, pushing for a second place, but Claridge is down. Again. Perrell's gone down for the second time today at the final corner. The exact same spot. Perrell down, gets going again straight away, but unfortunately Brandon Perrell struggling today. We've got someone else down.
Is that Howarth?
Yes, that looks like Will Howarth, isn't it? Yes, I think it is, who's gone down through the first chicane. Well, the conditions, are they worsening or are they just pushing too hard out there, I wonder? Perhaps a combination of the two, but Watley, it is certainly no problem for him. He is leading out front from Oscar Pinson. Then it is Richard Holmes Williams in third, and we believe that was Will Howarth who went down in fourth.
Such a terrible one lap there from the Extreme 200s. We had Claridge go down, we had Perrell go down, and of course Will Howarth. So we've got Felix Hearn moving up to sixth spot. This is the battle for sixth between Cam Harris and Felix Hearn, fifth and sixth position there. So it's not potentially the track conditions getting worse. It could just be that they're getting greasier. So that's possibly why the riders are pushing too hard and they're slipping off. So fifth and sixth position, Harris and Hearn. Who's going to take the top five? Will it be Harris, who's had a great start after starting from 11th on the grid? He's moved up six positions since the start of the race. But Claridge, after he went down a couple of laps ago, still in fourth spot, so he's only a few seconds behind Holmes Williams.
Oh yeah, that's the battle for fifth we're looking at on screen. There you can see the number 20 of Cam Harris. Here comes Felix Hearn though, trying to dive down the inside. Hearn's going to do it into the last corner. Is he under the brakes? No, just backs out of it at the last minute. So Felix Hearn, well, he's shown his intent to Cam Harris. That's only going to increase the pressure on the number 20 now. Trying to force a mistake here is Felix Hearn. Cam Harris is responding by trying to up the pace. Interesting battle going on here between these two. As Max Cook told us, a very difficult track to overtake at, and if you can't overtake, well, just do your best to force a mistake. That's the only thing you can do. Josh Watley though, he is not slowing down, still setting laps. Oh, and there we go. That's the mistake that we were talking about. Felix Hearn, having shown the nose down the inside last time, put the pressure on Harris. Harris tried to up the pace, and Cam Harris in the process has gone down. Well, that's probably the 5th or 6th crash we have seen in this race alone, and Harris has gone down. We've still got 4 laps to go in this one as well, but that'll put Felix Hearn up into 5th place, Liam.
Yes, we were just talking to Brandon Perrell at the lunchtime there, and he said the track is very slippery at some of the sections here, especially in the wet, so maybe they're getting caught out on these puddles, and of course the slippery conditions. The Extreme 200 riders having a bit of trouble with track conditions at the moment, especially as they come onto the back straight, because they run over a bit of the curbing and that unsettles the bike, so the back end steps out, and it steps out too much, you go down. But looking at the battle for second place, as Holmes Williams has caught Pinson, so Oscar Pinson is coming under a bit of pressure from Holmes Williams in the closing stages of this race as they head in towards the second chicane, right then a left. Look at Holmes Williams, he's got a lot more confidence on the brakes, and he's easing up to the back of Oscar Pinson on bike number 94. So the last few laps he's just been chipping away ever so slightly at the second place of Pinson, as Watley has 11.4 second advantage at the top of the field. So the number 70 of Watley in a commanding position as he's about to start his next lap. But this is the battle for second down towards the final corner. Can Holmes Williams put any more pressure on Pinson? Can he make a move into the last couple of laps, Chris?
Well, we will wait and see. Joshua Watley, I can tell you, is lapping 7/10 quicker than anyone out on track. Every single lap out front, he is absolutely flying. He has got into a real good rhythm round the Lydd circuit in these conditions, and Josh Watley is still pushing very hard, even with a lead. He actually set a new fastest lap last time, but who we are looking at the moment is the battle for second and third. Oscar Pinson ahead on the number 94. Behind on the number 126 is Richard Holmes Williams. We are about to start the final lap, I believe, is up ahead. Josh Watley should be coming across the line and does. So Watley on the number 70 comes across the line to start the last lap. Second and third though, Pinson and Holmes Williams. They've been matched like this for a number of laps. Holmes Williams, having closed in, Liam, will want to take that place on this last lap.
He's putting a lot of pressure on Pinson in the last few corners of this final lap, but we're looking at your race leader Joshua Watley, number 70. He might have had some issues in qualifying, but he's got no issues so far in the race. A couple of corners to go through the left into the final right. Brandon Perrell has had another incident further around the lap, but look at Josh Watley popping a wheelie down the back straight. Don't pop it too early, still one more corner to go through the final turn. Onto the home straight, he looks over his shoulder. Is he going to pop another one? Across the start finish line, big wheelie, sticks his leg out, nearly loses his balance. That is a KRP rider. Watley across the start finish line on the number 70, takes the race win. The Extreme 200's race one here from Lydd and Kent. Pinson and Holmes, second and third across the finish line as Pinson, Holmes, Williams just misses out on second position, but Pinson just holds it on bike number 94. Can Clouch hold on to fourth? As it comes across start finish line now after an earlier incident, it's going to be Cloud in fourth spot. Felix Hearn in a comfortable fifth at the moment, ahead of Taylor Lawrence, after Taylor Lawrence is your first of your riders that have remounted after an earlier crash, just behind Harvey Cloud. Harvey Cloud finishes so high up, I forgot he even went down.
Well, the full results then from the Extreme 200 in this first race on our Saturday. Joshua Watley takes the race win, and there you can see the fourth or fifth wheelie, I think that must be to celebrate. Oscar Pinson finishes in second place. Richard Holmes Williams is third, then is Harvey Claridge in fourth. Felix Hearn was fifth, Taylor Lawrence was sixth, Elliot Pinson finished in seventh, then it was Will Howarth in eighth, Cam Harris was ninth, Brandon Perrell 10th, Jay King, a race to forget for him, 11th place and at the very back of the field. A real shame for Jay King there, one of the drivers towards the front of the championship as well. But Joshua Watley, well, you can't take anything away from him. Fastest lap of 46.251. The next fastest lap after that was a 46.8. So fantastic stuff for Watley. Absolutely dominating proceedings in the Extreme 200s. If he keeps performing like that, you have to ask, can he be beaten?
Well, you've got to ask that indeed. And, well, if it wasn't for Elliot Pinson going down, we might be asking ourselves, can anyone beat Elliot Pinson? Because Pinson has had the pace all weekend, was on pole position. Watley, he did have a bit of an issue in qualifying, but he still started second. But as soon as he got into the lead of the race, he just pulled a bit of an advantage, which meant that Pinson had to push harder to try and catch up with Watley, and eventually pushed too hard and went down at the final corner. A very chaotic Extreme 200 race. A lot of crashers went down. I think only 4 of them out of the 11 didn't crash out, and Watley was one of them. But once again, I think they were all just pushing so hard to try and catch him. A great race. Watley is looking like he's the man to beat this weekend. We know he's a class rider. He's in the European Talent Cup, so he's racing all over some of the best circuits in Spain. So it's great that we've got him over here, and of course he's shown his absolute class in the Extreme 200s and taking the race win.
Very, very confident then as well. We've only got one more race to go, unfortunately. Of course, we're talking about, people dominating and people struggling, but it is wet today. It's not supposed to be tomorrow, so everything could change tomorrow, where we've got races 2 and 3 here from round 5 of the FAB-Racing British Mini Bikes Championship, the Road to MotoGP, the official partner series of the British Superbikes Championship as well. Only one more race to go, as we said, sadly, for our coverage today. That is going to be from the Sidecar, who are coming onto the track now. So here we go for Sidecars. They're making their way round onto the grid. This will finish proceedings for today. Thank you for being with us from Lydd. Not been the best of conditions today, but hopefully they're going to be a little bit better tomorrow. There you can see them pulling up. The Sidecars on to the grid now, and Liam will talk you through the grid.
Yeah, so it's the number 2 of Jack Qualters, 40 points behind your championship leader Mick Williams. Will be going off pole position. Paul Qualters Jr. in second, ahead of championship leader Mick Williams. Simon Ibbotson in 4th spot, ahead of Mark Parker, and the man from Wales, it's Russ Morgan on bike 111, starting in 6th. You can just see Russ Morgan pulling up to the grid now. So, as we can see, the Sidecars starting the race. The tension's building, the flags are up, the revs are rising, and away they go. It's the Sidecars. Great start from Jack Qualters. Mick Williams moves into second, just ahead of Paul Qualters Jr. at the start of the race. This is your championship leader, second and third, but in the wrong order. It's second place in the championship, leading first place in the championship into the second chicane. We've got Mark Parker all over the back of Qualters Jr. That's Paul Qualters Jr., the sidecar passenger of Paul Qualters Jr., looking over the shoulders to see who nearly tagged the back of him into the chicane section there. But look at this, Mick Williams putting his championship rival all under pressure. Wait a minute, we've got Mick Williams pulling off the side. Mick Williams is out of the race. Hands are up. What's happening with Mick Williams here? So that is an incident for Mick Williams, your championship leader. It looks like they've got going again. Don't know if they just ran off the circuit or if there was an issue with the bike there. So they just slowed, and right behind, it sounds like the bike might be a little bit sick as they come onto the back straight, but they're already looking up the inside of the number 46 of Simon Ibbotson. Chris, that was a bit of a strange one.
Well, yeah, very, very strange. Unless they just thought, well, let's just drop down a few places and try and do some overtaking. Why not? just for the fun of it. I highly doubt that was the case, though. Clearly some issues there, but quickly resolved on circuit. It's given us a nice battle to watch, though, hasn't it? Between Simon Ibbotson and Mick Williams as they come through the second chicane now. And they come through the right-hander and up towards the hairpin, and there you can see side by side. If they wanted to give themselves some overtaking to do, they've done just that, because they might be able to go 3 wide here as they come through the left-hander now and to the right. That must have been Mark Parker who ran wide, has dropped back to 5th, so we saw Simon Ibbotson, I think, then going up into 4th place. Mick Williams still behind as they come down towards the final corner. For the second time, Jack Qualters still leading from Paul Qualters Jr. And then in 3rd place, this is the battle for 3rd as it comes round the final corner and across the line. It is Ibbotson, Parker, having gone wide down at the hairpin, with now Mick Williams to deal with.
Absolutely. Mick Williams is in a very strange spot in 5th place. I've never seen him as far back as that. He might actually have done that on purpose, Chris. We're not too sure, but you never know. He might have given himself a bit of a race.
It was kind of a joke when I said that.
Yeah, more
fair enough.
Drop backs. Oh, we might have slowing up again, so maybe they're not. But once again, we've still got Ross Morgan behind them, so maybe they're waiting up for Ross just to... I'm only kidding on it. It looks like they might actually be going hard for it, but it looks like it might be a bike problem. So that leaves Jack Walters and Paul Walters Jr. first and second in the race. So it's a Walters affair up front. So Simon Ibbotson on bike number 46 has inherited the 3rd spot at the moment, ahead of Mark Parker, who had made a bit of a mistake the previous lap, ran off the circuit coming out of the hairpin, and Simon Ibbotson took full advantage of that. Mick Williams looks like he's getting back up to speed once again. Russ Morgan in 6th spot on bike 111, so picking up some important points a little bit further back. So Walters Jr., that's Paul Walters Jr. chasing down Jack Walters. The gap is 2.1 seconds at the moment, but Jack Walters is 0.7 of a second faster on each lap. But as we can see, the battle for 3rd, 4th and 5th, Mick Williams is working very hard for a position he's not really had to see himself finish in for a number of races.
Right, here we go round the hairpin then for the 4th time, and there comes Mick Williams now trying to go down the inside of Mark Parker, struggling to make positions, and they drop back once again. They've certainly got an issue there, looking down at the bike, so something has gone wrong. Now it looks like they're pulling up, so Mick Williams, our championship leaders, are in trouble here. 40 points back is Jack Walters, and if Jack Walters can win this race, the gap will come down tremendously. You get 25 points for that win, and it's really gonna come down. So sounds like the bike is cutting out. Apparently, that's what a crew are telling us out on track. So some engine problems for Mick Williams. Ross Morgan back in 6th place. But up ahead, we still do have this battle to worry about, which is Simon Ibbotson and Mark Parker battling for 3rd place then.
Oh, great run there from Mark Parker around the outside, but not getting the drive. He has done, actually. I eat my words as I say that, but over the crest into the right-hander, through the puddle ever so slightly. It's just a lap remaining, just over a lap remaining for the leaders, as we've got 3rd and 4th making their way onto the back straight for the second last time. Can Parker make a move on Ibbotson? There's only one lap remaining for the leaders into the final corner. 3rd and 4th go. See Mick Williams, the championship leader, dropping back to 5th, even further behind this group, but it's Jack Walters who leads the race by 5.7 seconds over Paul Walters Jr. Simon Ibbotson, Mark Parker on bikes 46 and 230 are 3rd and 4th. So it's number 2, Jack Walters, your race leader, coming over the brow of the hill into the right-hander. There's only 3 corners remaining, not 4, 3 corners remaining before the end of this race. The left into the right, over the curb to make the way onto the back straight, powering down the back straight. Can it be Jack Walters taking the race win and making sure that he edges in to Mick Williams in the championship? Round the final corner, the bike moves across the start finish line. Jack Walters picks up his 3rd win of the season, and we're waiting for Paul Walters Jr. to pick up a well-earned 2nd position on bike number 24. Paul Walters Jr. across the start finish line in 2nd, but who's it going to be for 3rd? Will it be Ibbotson? Will it be Parker? 46 versus 230 across the start finish line to come in any moment now. Oh, it's a big finish. Mick Williams has caught them as well. Who's it going to be? Ibbotson, Parker, Williams? Yes, in that order. Ibbotson holds off Parker and Williams. Where did Williams come from in the last lap? He was about 3 seconds further back, but he had the pace in the final lap to just miss out on the podium position. And Russ Morgan will be next up. Chris, that was a crazy last couple of laps there.
It really was, wasn't it? Mick Williams, came from a long way back there, but Ibbotson, the pressure almost got to them, but did very, very well to hang on in the end. So well-deserved podium for Simon Ibbotson. Mark Parker will be disappointed, having made that earlier mistake, to miss out. Mick Williams, well, problems for them, and I think can't even get themselves back to the pit lane. So clearly big issues there. Ross Morgan was 6th, but there's your winners. Give us a wave, lads. No, maybe not. I get blanked quite a lot around here, so there you go. They heard me in the end. Jack Walters, who actually putting their arm up because they're coming into pit lane, but there you go. I'll take it as a wave.
We'll have a word with them after the race.
They take the win. Jack Walters, good stuff. That is his 3rd win of the season, as you said, 12th podium. Paul Walters Jr. 2nd, Simon Ibbotson 3rd, and that brings the end to our coverage as well for today. Round 5 here from Lydd. Day 1 is over. We've got races 2 and 3 coming up next. I think I can hear some celebrations going on quite literally underneath us from Jack Walters there. A good race, in the end, from the sidecars. It's a reduced grid, so sometimes the racing can come in small doses, but I think we were treated quite well there for that battle for third.
Yeah, it was a great battle for third. We had both the qualifiers going off at the head of the field after Mick Williams had his issue. So it's the first qualifiers 1-2 that we've ever had, which is great to see.
Oh, there you go.
Mick Williams dropped back to 5th, tried to make a move into 3rd in the final lap, but couldn't quite make it. Not sure what the issue was there. We thought he was just dropping back for a bit of fun, and maybe one of those games where you start from last and you gain some points as you overtake people, but that's clearly not what the issue was. He was trying very hard. Just a bit of an issue, but that brings the championship down to, I believe, around about 16 points. So 16 points covering the top. I say 16 points, probably a little bit more than that, but it's going to be a great championship. Mick Williams has the pace to win the championship, but Jack Walters also has the pace and just showing the consistency as well. So the championship is closing up in the last few rounds, and it just means it's going to be absolutely brilliant towards the end of the season.
Yeah, it was. I mean, overall, your analysis of the first set of races, the first full wet session we've had in terms of races this season, and I think it delivered in terms of how it should have done. There were incidents, there were last lap dramas, there were first lap dramas, and we had championship leaders going down. I think it's delivered in every way it could have done.
Absolutely, it has done. As you said there was a lot of incidents, and it just comes down to the nature that there were some puddles on the circuit, some in the curb, some in the middle of the circuit on the racing line. Also, the riders will be taking a lot of curbing as well, because they want to try and shorten the circuit as much as they can, so they'll be pushing hard as the track's drying up a little bit as it was towards the end of the races there. It may just be getting a little bit greasy, but I think the thing that stood out the most today was some riders really came to the fore in the wet conditions. For example, you had Carter Brown up there in the mini GP 50s, unfortunately crashed out with the lap and a bit remaining, showing great performance there. You had Cameron Still picking up his first podium in the LC40 Elites. You also had Warwick Brady in the AC40s. Lots of people that have sort of been further down the field have been up the front and picking up podium positions, and we also had Eddie O'Shea in the mini GP70s.
Yes.
In the mix, nearly to picking up his first race win since the third race at round number 1 at Clandau. So it's all to play for. We've had wet conditions. It's been the first full wet day of the season here at QFAB in 2019. But tomorrow, it could be all different again.
Yeah, I mean, in terms of, our standings, a lot of classes closing in, 1 or 2 gaps going out, but makes things interesting going into tomorrow. And as we're getting into this second half of the season, it really those standings with every single race become more and more important, don't they?
Yeah, absolutely. There's so much to talk about in the racing so far this weekend, and of course tomorrow we're going to be having an exclusive interview with the FAB-Racing British Mini Bike Director Roger Keys, the race director. He's going to be talking about the British Talent Cup and what's coming up in 2020. So if you want to know, make sure you tune in. We're on Facebook, we're FAB-Racing on Facebook, we're also Motorsport Radio, we're on Twitter at Motorsport Radio, and of course we're also on FAB on Twitter at FAB-Racing, and for the first time this weekend we're also on motorsport.tv. So make sure that you tune back in tomorrow for more great FAB action. Sunday is looking a little bit better, but can the racing just be as good?
FAB-Racing, the official BSB partner series, and on the road to MotoGP.